25. The notch flickers behind me, and I watch in awe as my home of the last few months disappears with a single sweep of Herrick's hand. The hill remains, as does the clearing, but any sign of our camp wipes away like sand from a flat stone. We can't even hear the children who were standing there a moment ago, waving goodbye, their voices echoing in the night. Farah muffles them all, and together with Herrick, drops a curtain of protection around the youngest newbloods. No one has ever come close to finding us, but the added defense gives me more comfort than I care to admit. Most of the others let out victorious whoops, as if the act of disguising the notch alone is cause for celebration. To my annoyance, Killorn leads the cheer, whistling hard. But I don't scold him, not now when we're finally back on speaking terms. Instead, I offer a forced smile, my teeth gritted painfully together. It keeps back the words I wish I could say. Save your energy. Shade is just as quiet as I am and falls in next to me. He doesn't look back at the now empty clearing and keeps his eyes forward to the dark, cold woods and the task ahead of us. His limp is almost entirely gone, and he sets a quick pace that I eagerly follow, drawing the rest along with us. The hike to the airjet is not long. I try to take in every second of it. The cold night air bites at my exposed face, but the sky is blissfully clear. No snow, no storms? Yet. For a storm is certainly coming, whether by my hand or someone else's, and I have no idea who will survive to see the dawn. Shade murmurs something I don't hear, putting one hand on my shoulder. Two of his fingers are crooked, still healing from when we recruited Nanny in Concorda. A strong arm managed to get a grip on Shade and crushed the first fingers on his left hand before he could jump away. Farley patched him up, of course, but the sight still makes me cringe. It reminds me of Gisa, another barrow broken to pay for my deeds. This is worth the cost, he says again, his voice louder than before. We're doing the right thing. I know that. As afraid as I am for myself and those closest to me, I know that Koros is the right choice. Even without John's assurance, I believe in our path. How could we not? Newbloods cannot be left to Ilara's whispering, to be killed or made into hollow, soulless shells to follow her orders. This is what we must do to stop a more horrible world than the one we live in now. Still, Shade's assurance is a warm blanket of comfort. Thank you, I mutter back, putting a hand over his. He smiles in reply, a crescent of white to reflect the waning moon. In the darkness, he looks so much like our father. Without age, without the wheelchair, without the burdens of a life come undone. But they shared the same intelligence, the same slanting suspicion that kept them both alive on the war front, and now keeps Shade alive on a very different battlefield. He pats me on the cheek, a familiar gesture that makes me feel like a child, but I don't dislike it. It's a reminder of the blood we share, not in mutation, but birth, something deeper and stronger than any ability. On my right, Cal marches on, and I pretend not to feel his gaze. I know he's thinking about his own brother and his own bonds of blood now torn apart. And behind him is Killorn, clutching his hunting rifle, scanning the woods for any and all shadows. For all their differences, the two boys share a startling connection. They are both orphans, both abandoned, with no one but me to anchor them. Time passes too quickly for my taste. It seems like we're on the Black Run and soaring through the air in moments. Every second moves faster than the last as we hurtle toward the dark cliff before us all. This is worth the cost, I tell myself, repeating Shade's words over and over. I must keep calm, for the jet. I must not look afraid, for the others. But my heart thrums in my chest, so loud I fear everyone can hear it. To combat the harried beat, I press myself against the flight helmet in my lap, curling my arms around the smooth, cool shape. I stare at the polished metal, examining my reflection. The girl I see is both familiar and foreign. Mare, Marina, the Lightning Girl, the Red Queen, and no one at all. She does not look afraid. She looks carved of stone, with severe features, hair braided tight to her head, and a tangle of scars on her neck. She is not 17 but ageless, silver but not, red but not, human but not. A banner of the Scarlet Guard, a face on a wanted poster, a prince's downfall, a thief, a killer, a doll who can take any form but her own. The extra flight suits from the jet stores are black and silver, providing us with a ragtag kind of uniform that will also serve as our disguises. The others fuss over their suits, making adjustments where they must to fit into them. As always, Killorn fiddles with his collar, trying to loosen the stiff fabric a little. Nix's barely zips over his belly and looks liable to rip open at any moment. In contrast, Nanny is practically swimming in hers, but doesn't bother to roll her sleeves or pant legs like I have to. She'll take a different form when the jet lands, a form that turns my stomach and makes my heart race with too many emotions to count. Luckily, the Black Run was built for transport and holds all 11 of us with room to spare. I expect the extra weight to slow us down, but judging by the control panel, we're cruising along at the same speed as always, maybe even a little faster. Cal pushes the craft as best as he can, keeping us out of the moonlight and safely hidden in the autumn clouds, rolling along the Norton coast. He glares out the window, eyes flitting between the clouds and the many blinking instruments before him. I still don't understand what any of them mean, despite my many weeks sitting next to him in the cockpit. I was a poor student in the stilts, and that has not changed. I simply don't have a mind like he does. I know only shortcuts, how to cheat, how to lie, how to steal. And I know how to see what people hide. And right now, Cal is certainly hiding something. I would be afraid of anyone else's secrets, but I know what Cal keeps close cannot hurt me. He's trying to bury his own weakness, his own fear. He was raised to believe in strength and power and nothing else. To falter was the ultimate mistake. I told him before that I was afraid too, but a few whispered words are not enough to break years of belief. Just like me, Cal puts up a mask, and he won't even let me see behind it. It's for the best, the practical side of me thinks. The other part, the one that cares too much for the exiled prince, worries terribly. I know the physical danger of this mission, but the emotional never crossed my mind until this afternoon. What will Cal become in Koros? Will he leave the same way he went in? Will he leave it all? Farley checks our cache of weapons for the 12th time. Shade tries to help and she bats him away, but there's little force behind the action. Once, I catch a smirk pass between them, and she finally allows him to count out bullets from a packet marked Corvium. Another stolen shipment, Krantz is doing most likely. Together with Farley's contacts, he managed to smuggle us more guns, blades, and other various weapons that I could have imagined possible. Everyone will be armed, with their ability and whatever else they choose. I myself want nothing but my lightning, but the others are more eager, claiming daggers or pistols, or in Nix's case, the brutal collapsible spear he's favored these past few weeks. He hugs it close, running his fingers along the sharpened steel with abandon. Another would have cut himself open by now, but Nix's flesh is tougher than most. The other invulnerable new blood, Darmian, follows his lead and lays a thick, cleaver-like blade across his knobbly knees. The edge gleams, begging to cut through bone. As I watch, Cameron shakily takes a small knife, careful to keep it sheathed. She spent the last 3 days honing her ability, not her knife work, and the dagger is a last resort, one I hope she doesn't have to utilize. She catches my eye, her expression pained, and for a moment I fear she might snap at me or worse, see through my mask. Instead, she nods in grim acknowledgement. I nod back, extending the invisible hand of friendship between us. But her gaze hardens, and she looks away sharply. Her meaning is clear. We are allies, but not friends. Not long now, Cal says, nudging me on the arm so that I turn around. Too soon, my mind screams, though I know we're right on schedule. This will work. My voice shakes, and thankfully he's the only one to hear it. He doesn't poke at my weakness, letting it fester. This will work. Even weaker this time. Who has the advantage? He asks. The words shock, sting, and soothe in succession. Instructor Arvin asked the same thing in training, when he paired his students against each other in battles for blood and pride. He asked it again in the Bowl of Bones, before a Rombo strong-arm skewered him like a fat, foul pig. I hated the man, but that doesn't mean I didn't learn anything from him. We have Surprise. We have Cameron. We have Shade and Gareth and Nanny, and 5 other new bloods no Silver could possibly plan for. We have Cal, a military genius, and we have Cause. We have the Red Dawn at our backs, begging to rise. We have the advantage. Cal's grin is just as forced as mine, but it warms me anyway. That's my girl. Again, his words bring forth roiling, conflicting emotion. A click and a hiss of static from the radio wipe all thoughts of Cal from my mind. I turn my gaze on Nanny, who nods in reply. Before my eyes, her body changes, transforming from an old woman into a boy with ice blue eyes, black hair, and no soul. Maven. Her clothes shift with her appearance, replacing the flight suit with a pristine black dress uniform, complete with a row of gleaming medals and a blood-red cape. A crown nestles in the black curls, and I have to fight the urge to toss it from the jet. The others watch in rapt attention, amazed by the sight of the false king, but I feel only hatred and the smallest twinge of regret. Nanny's kindness bleeds through the disguise, turning Maven's lips into a soft smile I recognize far too well. For a single painful moment, I'm looking at the boy I thought he was, and not the monster he turned out to be. Good, I force out, my voice thick with emotion. Only Killorn seems to notice, and wrenches his gaze away from Nanny. I barely shake my head at him, telling him not to worry. We have more important things to dwell on. Koros Air, this is Fleet Prime, Cal says into the radio. On other flights, he did his best to sound bored, uninterested in the mandatory call-ins to different bases, but now he's all business. After all, we're pretending to be the King's own transport, what is known as Fleet Prime, a craft above all scrutiny, and Cal knows firsthand what this particular call-in is supposed to sound like. The throne approaches. No complicated call sign, no requesting permission to land, nothing but stern authority, and any operator on the other end would be hard-pressed to deny him. As expected, the responding voice stammers, "Received, Fleet Prime," a man says. His deep, rasping voice does nothing to hide his unease. Your pardon, but we were not expecting His Royal Highness until tomorrow afternoon?" Tomorrow, the 4th day, when John said we would die. And he was right. Maven would bring an army of guards with him, from sentinels to deadly warriors like Ptolemus and Evangeline. We would be no match for them. I wave a hand behind me, gesturing, but Nanny's already there. Her closeness in Maven's form makes my skin prickle. "The king follows no schedule but his own," she says into the radio, her cheeks flushed silver. Her tone isn't sharp enough, but the voice is unmistakable. "And I will not explain myself to a glorified doorman." A crash on the other end of the radio can only be the operator falling out of his seat. Yes, of course, Your Highness." Behind us, someone snorts into his sleeve. Probably Killorn. Cal offers Nanny a nod before taking the radio mouthpiece back. I see the same pain in him, the one I feel too deeply. "We will be landing in 10 minutes. Prepare Koros for the king's arrival." "I'll see to it personally." But Cal switches off the radio before the operator can finish, and allows himself a single, relieved smile. Again, the others cheer, celebrating a non-existent victory. Yes, the obstacle is hurdled, but many more will follow. All of them are below us, on the gray-green fields that edge the wash wastelands, hiding the prison that might be our doom. A tinge of daylight bleeds on the eastern horizon, but the sky above is still a deep, drowning blue when the Black Run lands on the smooth Koros runway. This is not a military base crowded with jet squadrons and hangars, but it's still a silver facility, and a palpable air of danger hangs over everything. I slide the flight helmet over my head, hiding my face. Cal and the others follow suit, donning their own helmets and slapping the face shields into place. To an outsider, we must look frightening. All in black, masked, accompanying the young, ruthless king to his prison. Hopefully the guards will look right past us, more concerned with the king's presence than his companions. I can't sit any longer and get out of my chair as fast as I can. The safety belts dangle in my wake, jingling together. I do what I must, what I wish I didn't have to, and take Nanny by the arm. She even feels like Maven. Look through people, I tell her, my voice muffled by the helmet. Smile without kindness. No small talk, no court talk. Act as if you have a million secrets and you're the only one important enough to know them all. She nods, taking this all in stride. After all, Cal and I have both instructed her on how to pass as Maven. This is merely a reminder, a last glance at the book before the test. I'm not a fool, she replies coldly, and I almost punch her in the jaw. She is not Maven, rings in my head, louder than a bell. I think you've got it, Killorn says as he stands. He grabs my arm, pulling me slightly away. Mare nearly killed you. Everyone ready? Farley shouts from the rear of the jet. Her hand hovers next to the ramp release, eager to press it. Form up, Cal barks, sounding a bit too much like a drill sergeant. But we respond, falling into the ordered lines he taught us, with Nanny at the head. He takes her side, falling into the role of her most lethal bodyguard. Let's make some bad decisions, Farley says. I can almost hear her smiling as she pushes the release. A hiss, then gears turn, wires pulse, and the back of the jet yawns open to greet the last morning some of us will ever see. A dozen soldiers wait a respectable distance from the Black Run, their formation tight and practiced. At the sight of the new blood masquerading as their king, they snap into stiff, perfect salutes. One hand to the heart, one knee to the ground. The world looks darker behind the shield of my flight helmet, but it doesn't hide the clouded gray of their military uniforms or the squat, unassuming compound behind them. No bronze gates, no diamond glass walls. There aren't even windows. Just a single flat brick of concrete stretching out into the abandoned fields of this wasteland. Koros prison. I allow myself one glance back at the craft and the runway stretching into the distance where shadows and radiation dance. I can just see a pair of airjets idling in the gloom, their metal bellies full and round. Prison planes, used to transport the captured. And if all goes to plan, they'll see action again soon. We approach Koros in silence, trying to march in step. Cal flanks Nanny, one fist permanently clenched at his side, while I trail just behind, with Cameron on my left and Shade on the right. Farley and Killorn keep to the center of the formation, never letting go of their guns. The air itself seems electrified, coursing with danger. It is not death I fear, not anymore. I've faced dying too many times to be afraid of it. But the prison itself, the thought of being captured, forced into chains, turned into the Queen's mindless puppet, that I cannot bear. I would rather die 100 times than face such a fate. So would any of us. Your Highness, one of the soldiers says, daring to look up at the person he believes to be king. The badge on his breast, 3 crossed swords in red metal, mark him as a captain. The bars on his shoulders, bright red and blue, can only be his house colors. House Iral. Welcome to Koros prison. As instructed, Nanny looks straight through him, waving one pale hand in dismissal. That should be enough to convince anyone of her supposed identity. But as the soldiers stand, the captain's eyes flick over us, noting our own uniforms, and the lack of sentinels accompanying the royal sovereign. He hesitates on Cal, one razored glance focusing on his helmet. He says nothing, however, and his soldiers fall into formation next to us, their footsteps echoing with ours. Haven, Osanos, Provos, Macanthos, Egri. I note the familiar colors on a few uniforms. The last, House Egri, the House of Eyes, is our first target. I tug on Cameron's sleeve, nodding gently toward the bearded blonde man with darting eyes and white and black stripes on his shoulder. She inclines her head and her fists ball at her sides in quiet concentration. The raid has begun. The captain takes Nanny's other side, stepping in front of me, so smoothly I barely notice. A Silk. He has the same tanned skin, gleaming black hair, and angled features of Sonia Iral and her grandmother, the sleekly dangerous Panther. I can only hope the captain is not so talented as intrigue as she is, or else this is going to be much more difficult than expected. Your specifications are nearly completed, Your Highness, he says. There's a prickling air to his words. Every cell block is individually sealed, as instructed, and the next shipment of Silent Stone arrives tomorrow with the new unit of guards. Good, Nanny replies, sounding uninterested. Her pace quickens a little, and the captain adjusts in kind, keeping up with her. Cal does the same, and we follow. It looks like a chase. While the security center of Harbor Bay was a beautiful structure, a vision of carved stone and sparkling glass, Koros is as gray and hopeless as the waste around it. Only the entrance, a single black iron door set flush against the wall, breaks the monotony of the prison. No hinges, no lock or handle. The door looks like an abyss, like a gaping mouth. But I feel electricity, bleeding around the edges, originating from a small square panel set next to it. The key switch. Just like Cameron said. The key itself dangles from a black chain at Iral's neck, but he doesn't pull it loose. There are cameras, too. Beady little eyes trained on the door. They don't bother me in the slightest. I care more about the Silk captain and his soldiers, who have us surrounded and keep us marching forward. I'm afraid I don't know you, pilot, or the rest of you for that matter, the captain prods, leaning so he can see past Nanny and fix Cal with a flint-eyed stare. Would you identify yourself? I clench my fist to keep my fingers from shaking. Cal does no such thing and barely turns his head, reluctant to even acknowledge the prison captain. Pilot suits me fine, Captain Iral. Iral bristles, as expected. The Koros facility is under my command and protection, pilot. If you think I'm going to let you inside without what, Captain? Every word out of Nanny's mouth cuts like a knife, slicing through the deepest parts of me. The captain stops cold and flushes silver, swallowing an ill-advised retort. Last I checked, Koros belongs to Norta. And who does Norta belong to? I am only doing my job, Your Highness. He sputters, but the battle is already lost. He puts a hand to his heart, again, saluting. The Queen charged me with defense of this prison, and I only wish to obey her commands as well as yours. Nanny nods. Then I command you to open the door. He bows his head, giving way. One of his soldiers, an older woman with a severe silver braid and square jaw, steps forward, laying one hand on the iron door. I don't need the black and silver stripes on her shoulder to know she's of House Samos. The iron shifts beneath her magnetron touch, splintering into jagged pieces that react with sharp efficiency. A blast of cold air hits us head-on, smelling faintly of damp and something sour. Blood. But the entrance hall beyond is made of stark, blinding white tiles, each one without a hint of stain. Nanny is the first to step inside, and we follow. Next to me, Cameron trembles, and I nudge her softly. I would hold her hand if I could. I can only imagine how terrible this must be. I would tear myself apart before returning to Archeon, and yet she returns to her own prison for me. The entrance is strangely empty. No pictures of Maven, no banners. This place has no one to impress and needs no decoration. There are only whirring cameras. Captain Iral's soldiers quickly retake their posts, flanking each of the 4 doors around us. The one behind, the black, shuts with the ear-splitting screech of metal sliding against metal. The doors to the left and right are painted silver and gleam in the harsh prison light. The one ahead, the one we must pass through, is a sickening blood red. But Iral stops short, gesturing to one of the silver doors. I assume you'd like to see Her Highness, the Queen. I am very glad for our helmets, or else the captain would see horror on every single face. Ilara is here? My stomach flips at the thought of facing her, and I'm almost sick inside my helmet. Even Nanny pales and her voice sticks, despite her best efforts. I feel Killorn at my back, inches from me. He is silent, but I hear his meaning all the same. Run, run, run. But running is not something I can do anymore. Her Highness is here? Cal bites out. For a second, I'm afraid he's forgotten himself. Still? He adds. The afterthought of a lie. But suspicion flares in the captain all the same. I see it like an explosion in his eyes. Blessed Nanny laughs aloud, her forced chuckle cold and detached. Mother has always done as she likes, you know this, she says to Cal, scolding him. But I am here on other business, Captain. No need to bother her. The captain offers up an obliging smile. It pulls at his face like a sneer, twisting his fine features into something ugly. Very well, sir. Killorn taps my arm, his touch urgent. He sees what I see. The captain no longer believes us. Turning, I take Cameron by the elbow and squeeze. Her neck signal. Under my touch, her muscles tighten. She's pouring everything she has into blocking Egri's ability, to keep him from seeing what's coming. Confusion crosses his face, but he shakes it off, trying to focus on us. He doesn't understand what's happening to him. And what have you come here to do? Iral presses on, still wearing his pointed demon grin. He takes one languid step toward us. It will be his last. Remove your helmets, if you please. No, I tell him. With an easy breath, I take hold of the cameras pointed down at all of us. As Iral opens his mouth to shout, I exhale and the cameras explode into a twist of sparks like fireworks. The lights go next, flashing on and off, plunging us into pitch black and striking brightness in succession. We are prepared for this, the soldiers of Koros are not. Flame races along the tile, casting strange, dancing light across the white. It bars every door, jumping up to the ceiling, effectively locking the soldiers in with us and the flickering darkness. The Osanos soldier, a nymph, hastily leaches moisture from the air, but not enough to combat Cal's crackling fire. A stone skin rushes at me, his flesh turning to rock before my eyes, but he hits the wall, known as Nyx Marston. Darmian joins in, and the 2 invulnerable new bloods set to taking the soldier apart. The others fare just as well. Ketha obliterates the Provost Telki, planting an explosion in his heart that rips him from the inside out. The Haven soldier does her best to combat my darkness, using her ability to collapse the shadows, pooling them into a black mist that suddenly erupts with blinding, brilliant light. Even our helmets do nothing to stop the glare, and I have to shut my eyes. When I open them, the Haven is on the ground, with a deep gash in her neck. She coughs silver blood onto the tile, and my brother stands over her, knife in hand. Behind him, Egri drops to his knees, clutching his head and screaming. I can't see! He weeps, tearing at his own eyes. Blood joins his painful tears. I can't see anything! What's happening? What is this? What are you? He shouts to no one. Cameron is the first to pull off her helmet. She has never killed a man before, not even in her escape. I see it all over her face, in the horror twisting through her, but she doesn't let go. Out of bravery or malice, I can't say. Her silence takes hold until the man on the ground stops crying, stops clawing, stops breathing. He dies with his eyes wide open, staring at nothing, blind and deaf, in his last moments. It must feel like being buried alive. It's over in a minute or so. 12 silver soldiers dead on the tile, some burned, some electrocuted, some shot, some with their heads bashed in. Ketha's kills are the messiest. An entire wall is splattered with her handiwork, and she pants noisily, trying not to look at what she's done. Her explosive ability is gruesome at best. Only Laurie is wounded, having taken on the magnetron with Gareth. She got a shard of metal in the arm, but nothing too bad. Farley is the first to her side and pulls out the makeshift blade, letting it clatter to the floor. Laurie doesn't so much as grunt in pain. "We forgot bandages," Farley mutters, putting one hand over the bleeding cut. "You forgot bandages," Ada replies, pulling a small swatch of white fabric from inside her suit. She expertly ties it around Laurie's arm. It stains in an instant. Killorn chuckles to himself, the only one to enjoy a joke at a time like this. To my relief, he looks perfectly all right, focusing on reloading his gun. The barrel smokes, and there are at least 2 bodies riddled with his bullets. Anyone else would think him unaffected, but I know better. Despite the laughter, Killorn finds no joy in this bloody work. Neither does Cal. He bends over the dead Captain Eral, gingerly taking the black key from his neck. "I won't kill them," he told me once, before we stormed the security center of Harbor Bay. He broke his own promise, and it's wounded him more deeply than any battle. "Nanny," he mutters, unable to look away from Eral. With shaking fingers, he closes the captain's eyes forever. Behind him, Nanny focuses on Eral's face, staring at him. It only takes a moment before her features match his own, and I breathe a small sigh of relief. Even a fake maven is nearly too much for me to bear. A hiss of static crackles at Eral's belt. His radio, the command center, attempting contact. "Captain Eral. Captain, what's going on down there? We lost visual." "Just a malfunction," Nanny replies with Eral's voice. "Might spread, might not." "Received, Captain." Cameron tears her eyes away from the dead Egri. She lays a hand on the red door. "This way," she says, almost inaudible, over the drip of blood and the sighs of the dying. I feel the prison's command center like a nerve, pulsing, controlling all the cameras in the facility. It pulls at me, dragging me through the sharp turns of its hallways. The corridors are white tile, just like the entrance, but not so clean. If I look closely, I can see blood between the tiles, turned brown by time. Someone tried to wash away whatever happened, but they weren't thorough enough. Red blood is so hard to clean up. I see the Queen in this, in whatever nightmare she's concocted deep in the bowels of Koros. She's here, somewhere, continuing her frightening work. She might even be coming for us now, alerted to a disturbance. I hope she is. I hope she turns the corner right now, so I can kill her. But instead of Queen Alara, we round the bend to find another door, with a large D on it, and no lock. Cameron runs to it, her knife in hand, and gets to work prying at the switch panel. It comes loose in a second, and her fingers plunge into the wiring. "We have to go through here to get to command," she says, jerking her head at the door. "There are 2 magnetron guards inside. Be ready." Cal quietly clears his throat, dangling the key in front of her. "Oh," she grumbles, flushing, and takes it from his hand. With a scowl, she jams it into the corresponding slot on the switch. "Tell me when." "Gareth," Cal begins, but he's already stepped forward, bracing himself against the metal door. Nanny takes his side, still disguised as Captain Eral. They both know what they must do. The others are not so sure. Ketha looks on the edge of tears, her hands twitching up and down her arms, as if she's afraid she's lost a limb. Farley reaches out, only to be batted away. My heart sinks when I realize I don't know how to comfort Ketha. Does she need a hug or a slap? "Watch our backs," I bark at her, electing what I hope is the happy medium. She shivers, glaring at me. Her braid has come undone, and she tugs at the strands of dark hair. Slowly she nods, turning on the spot to watch the empty corridor behind us. Her sniffles echo off the tile. "No more," she murmurs, but she holds her ground. Darmian and Nyx take her side, more in a show of solidarity than strength. At least they'll make a very good wall when the guards realize what's happening up here, which should be soon. Cal knows the urgency as well as I do. "Now," he says, and flattens himself against the wall with the rest of us. The key turns. I feel the electricity jump in the switch and flood the door's mechanism. It flies open, screeching back into the wall to reveal a cavernous cell block. In stark contrast to the white tile corridors, the cells are gray, cold, and dirty. Water drips somewhere, and the air is sickly damp. 4 levels of cells reach down into the gloom, one stacked on top of the other, with no landings or stairs connecting the sets. 4 cameras, one in each corner of the ceiling, watch over all. I shut them off with ease. The only light is a harsh, flickering yellow, though the small skylight above has gone blue, betraying the rising sun. Standing beneath it, on a single catwalk made of gleaming reflective metal, are 2 magnetrons in gray uniforms. Both of them spin at the sound of approach. "What are you?" the first says, taking a single step toward us. He has Samos colors on his uniform. He freezes at the sight of Nanny, standing at Garrett's shoulder. "Captain Iral, sir." With a wave of his hand, the Samos magnetron officer raises flat sheets of metal from the block floor, constructing a new section of catwalk before our eyes. It connects to his, allowing Garrett and Nanny to walk forward. "Fresh blood?" The other officer chuckles, nodding at Gareth with a sly grin. "What legion are you out of?" Nanny cuts in before Gareth can answer. "Open the cells. It's time for a walk." To our chagrin, the officers exchanged confused glances. "We just walked them yesterday. They're not due for..." "Orders are orders, and I have mine," Nanny replies. She raises Iral's key, dangling it in an open threat. "Open the cells." "So it's true? The king's back again?" Samos asks, shaking his head. "No wonder everyone's in an uproar back at command. Got to look sharp for the crown, I guess, especially with his mother still skulking around." "She's a strange one, the queen," the other says, scratching his chin. "Don't know what she does in the well. Don't want to know either." "The cells," Nanny repeats, her voice hard. "All right, sir," the first magnetron grumbles. He elbows the other and they turn together, facing the dozens of cells rising from floor to ceiling. Many are empty, but some hold shadows languishing under the crush of silent stone. New blood prisoners, about to be let loose. More catwalk clangs into place, the sound like a giant hammer beating a wall of aluminum. They line the cells, creating walkways around the perimeter of the block, while more sheets twist and fold into steps to connect the levels. For a moment, I'm seized by a sense of wonder. I've only seen magnetrons in battle, using their abilities to kill and destroy, never to create. It's not hard to imagine them designing airjets and luxurious transports, curving jagged iron into smooth arcs of razor-thin beauty, or even the metal dresses Evangeline was so fond of. Even now, I admit they were magnificent, though the girl wearing them was a monster. But when the bars of every cell yawn open, causing the people inside to stir, I forget all my wonder and amazement. These magnetrons are jailers, killers, forcing innocent people to suffer and die behind bars for whatever feeble reason Maven gives them. They are following orders, yes, but choosing to follow them all the same. "Come on, out you go. On your feet, time to take the dogs for a walk." The magnetron officers move in rapid succession, trotting to the first set of cells. They bodily drag new bloods from their cots, tossing the ones who can't get up fast enough out onto the catwalk. A little girl lands dangerously close to the edge, almost falling. She looks so much like Gisa. I take a step forward, and Kalorn has to yank me back. "Not yet," he growls in my ear. Not yet. My hands clench, itching to let loose on the 2 officers as they get closer and closer to the door. They haven't seen us yet, but they certainly will. Cal is the first to remove his helmet. Samu stops short, as if shot, He blinks once, not believing his eyes. Before he can react, his feet leave the ground and he hurtles toward the ceiling. The other follows suit as his tenuous hold on gravity releases. Gareth bounces them both, smacking them against the concrete ceiling with sickening final crunches of bone. We flood into the cell block, moving as one, as fast as we can. I reach the fallen girl first, hauling her to her feet. She wheezes, her small body shivering, but the pressure of silent stone has fallen away, and some color returns to her pale, clammy cheeks. I remove my own mask. "The lightning girl," she murmurs, touching my face. It breaks my heart. Part of me wants to pick her up and run, to take her away from all this. But our task is far from over and I cannot leave, even for the little girl. So I put her down on shaky legs and pull my hand gently from her grasp. "Follow us as best you can. Fight as best you can," I shout to the block. I make sure to lean over the edge of the catwalk so everyone can hear and see me. Far below, the few prisoners still alive in the low cells have already begun the climb up the metal steps. We are leaving this prison tonight, together and alive. By now I should know better than to lie. But a lie is what they need to carry on, and if my deceit saves even one of them, it is worth the cost to my soul. 26. Blind cameras can protect us for only so long, and that time has apparently run out. It starts with explosions back in the corridor. I hear Ketha screaming with every blast, frightened by what she's done and what she continues to do to flesh and bone. Each ragged cry shocks through the cell block, stilling the already slow new bloods. "Keep moving," Farley barks. Her manic energy is gone, replaced by stern authority. "Follow Ada! Follow Ada!" She herds them like sheep, bodily pulling many of them up the stairs. Shade is more helpful, jumping the oldest and sickest up from the lowest levels, though it disorients most of them. Killorn keeps them from stumbling off the catwalk, his long limbs coming in handy. Ada waves her arms, directing the new bloods to the door next to her. It has a big, black C on it. "With me!" she shouts. Her eyes flicker over everything and everyone, counting. I have to push many of them toward her, though they're inexplicably drawn to me. At least the little girl gets the message. She toddles over to Ada and clings to her leg, trying to hide from the noise. Everything echoes horribly in the block, transformed into beast-like howls by the concrete walls and metal plating. Gunshots ring out next, followed by Nix's unmistakable laughter. But he won't be laughing long if this assault keeps up. Now comes the part I dread the most, the part I fought hardest against, but Cal was clear. We must split up. Cover more ground, free more prisoners, and most important, get them out safely. So I move through the throng of new bloods, fighting the tide, with Cameron next to me. She tosses the key over her shoulder and Killorn catches it deftly. He watches us go, not daring to blink. This might be the last time he ever sees me, and we both know it. Cal follows behind me. I feel his warmth from yards away. He burns the catwalk behind us, letting it melt, cutting us off from the others. When we reach the opposite door, the one marked Command, Cameron gets to work on the switch panel. I can do nothing but stare, glancing between Killorn and my brother, memorizing their faces. Ketha, Nix, and Darmian run back into the block, sprinting from the onslaught they can no longer hold back. Bullets follow, pinging off metal and Nix's flesh. Again, the world slows, and I wish it would stop entirely. I wish John were here to tell me what to do, to tell me I made the right choices, to tell me who dies. A hot, almost scalding hand takes my cheek, forcibly turning me away from the rest. "Focus," Cal says, glaring into my eyes. "Mare, you're going to have to forget them right now. Trust what you're doing." I can barely nod. I can barely speak. "Yes." Behind us, the cell block empties. Ahead, the switch sparks. The door slides open. Cal pushes us both through and I land hard on another tile floor. My body reacts before my mind can, and lightning sparks to life all around me. It shatters my thoughts of Killorn and Shade, until all that remains are the command center across the hall and what I must do. Just like Cameron said, it's a triangular room of impenetrable, rippled diamond glass, filled with control panels, monitoring screens, 6 bustling soldiers, and the same metal doors as the cells. 3 in all, 1 set in each wall. I run to the first, expecting it to open, expecting the command soldiers inside to rise to the occasion. To my surprise, they keep to their chairs and stations, watching me with wide, fearful eyes. I bang one fist on the door, enjoying the pain that shoots through my hand. "Open up!" I scream, like that can do anything. Instead, the soldier closest to me flinches, jumping back from the wall. He too has a captain's badge. "Don't!" he commands, holding out a hand to still his fellow officers. Overhead, a siren screams to life. "If that's the way they want it," Cal mutters, moving to the other door. A slam makes me jump, and I turn to see great granite blocks slide into place, replacing the metal door we just came through. Cameron smirks at the control panel, even patting it fondly. "That should buy us a few minutes." She gets to her feet, knees cracking. Her face sours at the sight of the command center. "Bleeding fools are scared," she growls, and makes a very rude hand gesture more suited to the alleys of the stilts. "Can we reach them through the glass?" In reply, I turn my gaze on the monitoring screens. They explode in rapid succession, showering the soldiers in a spray of sparks and broken glass. The siren screeches to a low whine, then cuts out. Every piece of metal inside the command room jumps with electricity, frying like eggs in a pan, making the soldiers cluster in the center of the room. One of them collapses, clutching his head in a gesture I now recognize. His body rocks in time with Cameron's clenching fist, fighting wave after wave of suffocating ability. Blood drips from his ears, nose, and mouth. It isn't long before he chokes on it. "Cameron!" Cal barks, but she pretends not to hear him. "Julian Jacos!" I shout, banging on the glass again. "Sarah Skonos, where are they?" Another soldier drops, howling. "Cameron!" She shows no signs of stopping, not that she should. These people imprisoned her, tortured her, starved her, and would have killed her. Revenge is her right. My own lightning intensifies, bouncing inside the glass box, forcing the soldiers to cower from its purple-white wrath. Each bolt crackles and spits, blasting closer and closer to their flesh. "Mare, stop it!" Cal continues shouting, but I barely hear him. "Julian Jacos! Sarah Sco—" The captain, now scrambling across the floor, throws himself at the wall in front of me. "Block G!" he screams, slapping his palm on the glass a few inches from my face. "They're in Block G! Through that door!" "That's it, come on," Cal growls. Inside the command module, the captain's eyes flicker to his fallen prince. Cameron laughs high and clear. "You want to leave them alive? Do you know what they've done to us, to everyone here, your Silvers included? Please, please, we were following orders, the king's orders," the captain pleads, ducking to avoid another arc of lightning. Behind him, Cameron's second victim curls into himself, succumbing to her silence. Tears cling to his lashes in crystal drops. "Your Highness, I beg for mercy, your mercy." I think of the little girl in the cells. Her eyes were bloodshot, and I could feel her ribs through her clothes. I think of Gisa and her broken hand, the bled baby in Templin. Innocent children. I think of everything that's happened to me since this fateful summer, when a dead fisherman began all this trouble. No, it wasn't his fault. It was theirs. Their laws, their conscription, their doom for every single one of us. They did this. They have brought this ending upon themselves. Even now, when it is Cameron and me destroying them, they beg for Cal's mercy. They beg to a Silver King and spit upon Red Queens. I see the prince through the rippled glass. It distorts his face, and he looks so much like Maven. "Mare," Cal whispers, if only to himself. But his whispers cannot stop me now. I feel something new inside myself, familiar but strange. A power that comes not from blood, but choice. From who I have become, and not what I was born as. I turn from Cal's warped image. I know I look just as twisted. I bare my teeth in a snarl. Lightning has no mercy. Once, I watched my brothers burn ants with a bit of glass. This is similar. And worse. while the individually sealed cell blocks make it difficult, almost impossible for prisoners to escape. They also make it that much harder for the guards to communicate with each other. Confusion is as effective as lightning or flame. Guards are loath to leave their posts, especially with rumors of the king around, and we find 4 buzzing magnetrons arguing in Block G. "You heard the siren. Something's wrong." "Probably a drill showing off for the little king. I can't get command on the radio." "You heard them before. Cameras are malfunctioning. The radios are going too. Might be the queen messing around again. Bloody witch." I spear a bolt through one of them to get their attention. "Wrong witch." Before the metal catwalk can drop beneath me, I grab onto the bars to the left of the door, holding fast. Cal goes to the right, and the bars turn red beneath his flaming touch, melting straight through. Cameron stays in the doorway, a light sheen of sweat across her brow, but she shows no signs of slowing down. One of the magnetrons topples from his retracting perch, clutching his head as he falls 3 levels to the concrete floor. It knocks him out cold. 2 left. A hailstorm of jagged metal screams at me, each piece a tiny dagger meant to kill. Before they can, I let go, sliding down the bars until my feet hit the slight ledge of the cell below. "Cal, a little help!" I shout, dodging another blast. I answer it with my own, but the magnetron dips, stepping into what should be mid-air. Instead, his metal moves with him, allowing him to seemingly run through the open atrium. To my chagrin, Cal ignores me and pries away the melted bar of the cell. His back spikes with flame, protecting himself from any weapon the other magnetron can throw at him. I can barely see him through the twists of fire, but I see enough. He's horribly angry, and it's no mystery why. He hates me for killing those silvers. For doing what he can't. I never thought I'd see the day when Cal, the soldier, the warrior, would fear to act. Now he focuses on opening as many cells as he can, ignoring my pleas for help, forcing me to fight alone. "Cameron, drop him!" I yell, glancing up at my unlikely ally. "With pleasure," she snarls, extending a hand to the magnetron attacking me. He stumbles but doesn't fall. She's weakening. I scramble along the cells, toes almost slipping, fingers straining with every passing second. I'm a runner, not a climber, and I almost can't fight this way. Almost. A sharp diamond-shaped razor grazes my cheek, opening a wound across my face. Another cuts my palm. When I grab the next bar, my grip is weak, slipping through my own blood. I fall the last 6 or 7 feet, landing hard in the bowels of the block. For a second, I can't breathe, and I open my eyes to see a gigantic spike whistling at my head. I roll, dodging the killing blow. Another and another rain down, and I have to zigzag across the floor to stay alive. "Cal!" I shout again, more angry than afraid. The next spike melts before it reaches me, but the iron globs splatter too close, burning across my back. A scream escapes me as the fabric of my suit melts into my scars. It's nearly the worst pain I've ever felt, second only to the sounder and the excruciating coma that followed. My knees slam into the ground, sending jolts of agony up my legs. Pain, it seems, is another one of my triggers. The skylight high above us shatters, and a bolt of lightning explodes down to me. For a split second, it's like a purple tree has grown up from the sub-level, branching and veining through the open atrium of Block G. It catches one of the magnetrons, and she doesn't even have time to scream. The other, the last guard, is all but finished, reduced to cowering on his last sheet of metal, curled up against Cameron's hammering will. "Julian!" I shout once the air clears. "Sarah?" Cal jumps down at the other end of the floor, his hands cupped around his mouth. He refuses to look at me, searching the cells instead. "Uncle Julian!" he roars. "I'll just wait up here," Cameron says, watching us from the open doorway at the top level. Her legs dangle. She even has the gall to whistle, eyeing the last magnetron as he moans. Block G is just as dank as the new blood D, and, thanks to me, half destroyed. A hole smokes in the center of the floor, the only remnants of my massive bolt. From what I can see, the bottom cells are almost pitch black, but they're all full. A few prisoners have stumbled to their bars, coming to look at the commotion. How many faces will I recognize? but they're too drawn, too gaunt, their skin almost blue with fear, hunger, and cold. I doubt I'd recognize even Cal after a few weeks down here. I expected more for the Silvers, but I guess political prisoners are just as dangerous as secret mutated ones. Here, a voice croaks. I nearly trip over a magnetron body, running even though the burns on my back protest with every step. Cal meets me there, his hands on fire, ready to melt the bars, to save his uncle, to make amends for some of his sins. The man in the cell looks weak, as old and frail as his beloved books. His skin has gone white, his remaining hair thin, and the lines on his face have multiplied and deepened. I think he's even missing teeth. But there's no mistaking his familiar brown eyes and the spark of intelligence still burning deep inside. Julian. I can't get to him fast enough and hover almost too close to the melting metal. Julian, Julian, my teacher, my friend. The first bar buckles, and Cal wrenches it away, creating a space big enough for me to slip through. I barely notice the suffocating pressure of silent stone and focus instead on pulling Julian to his feet. He feels brittle, as if his bones might snap, and for a moment, I wonder if he'll get out of this alive. Then his grip on me tightens, and his brow furrows in concentration. "Bring me to that guard," he growls, betraying some of his old spirit. "And get Sarah out." Of course, we're here for her too. I put his arm over my shoulder, helping him walk. Though he's much taller than me, he feels shockingly light. We're here for everyone. When we get him outside the cell, Julian stumbles, but keeps his footing. "Cal," he mutters, reaching for his nephew. He takes his face in his hands and studies the exiled prince like he would an old book. "Things were done, weren't they?" "Yes, they were." Cal growls. He doesn't look my way. The cell's changed what Julian looks like, but not who he is. He nods in understanding, looking very solemn. It comforts Cal in no small way. "Such thoughts have no place here and now. But after, Cal repeats. Finally, he turns his blazing eyes on me. I feel burned by them. After. "Come, Mare, help me to that festering lump." Julian points to the guard on the floor, unconscious but still living. "Let's see if I'm not totally useless." I do as I'm told, acting as Julian's crutch as he limps to the fallen officer. Meanwhile, Cal gets to work on Sarah's cell, located across the floor from Julian. Within sight and earshot, but too far away to touch. Another small torture that they had to withstand. I've seen Julian do this before, but never with such effort or pain. His fingers shake as he pries open one of the officer's eyes, and he swallows many times, trying to call forth the voice that he needs. The song. "It's all right, Julian, we can find another way." "Another way will get us killed, Mare. Have I taught you nothing at all?" Despite the situation, I have to smile. I fight the urge to hug him and try to hide my grin. Finally, Julian exhales, eyes half shut. Veins stand out in his neck. Then his eyes snap open, wide and clear. "Wake," he says in a voice more beautiful than sunset. Beneath us, the officer does as he's told, his other eye drifting open. "Open the cells, all of them." A twisting shriek echoes up and down the block as the bars of every single cell bow open in unison. "Build the stairs and walks, connect everything." Clang, clang, clang. Every shred of metal, the daggers, the electrocuted shards, even the melted drops flatten and reform, banging together in succession. "Walk with us." Julian's voice quivers in the last order, but the magnetron obeys, if a little slowly. "You're lucky you came today, Mare," Julian says as I help him straighten. "They walked us yesterday. We are not so weak as we usually are." I debate telling Julian about John, his ability, his advice. Julian will love hearing about him. After, I tell myself, after. For the first time I have hope. There will be an after. Chaos descends on Koros. Gunfire echoes in every corridor. Behind every door, the ragged band of Silvers follows us weakly, but a few have the strength to complain. I don't trust them at all, and almost walk backward to keep watch. Many branch off, slipping around corners, eager to be rid of this place. Others go deeper into the prison, looking for revenge. A few stay with us, their eyes downcast, ashamed to follow the lightning girl. But still they follow, and they fight as best they can. It's like dropping a stone in a still pond. The ripples start small, but they certainly grow. Each block falls more easily than the last, until the magnetrons inside must run from us. The silvers kill more than I do, falling on their betrayers like hungry wolves. But even this cannot last. When a Larolan Oblivion blasts away a stone barrier, opening Block J to us, the debris falls not down, but up, and before I understand what's happening, I'm being sucked into a whirlwind of smoke, shards, and unearthly whispers. Cameron grabs at my hand, but she slips from my grasp, disappearing into what must be mist. A nymph. I can't see anything but shadows and gloomy yellow light, each one like a distant, hazy sun. Before I can fall into such oblivion, I reach out, grabbing for anything. My cut hand closes on a cold, limp leg, stopping me with a bone-rattling jolt. "Cal!" I shout, but the howl swallows up my voice. Grunting, I pull myself up the leg. It must belong to a corpse because it isn't moving. Cold fear tears at my mind, reaching with icy, sharp fingers. I almost let go, not wanting to see the face that belongs to this body. It could be anyone, it could be everyone. It's wrong to feel relieved, but I do. I don't recognize the man tangled in the bars of his cell, one leg wrapped, the other still dangling. He's certainly a prisoner, but I don't know him, and I won't mourn him. My back feels nearly split open by scars and burns, and for a second I allow myself to lean back against the bars. The gravity in this block has shifted. Gareth is here, which means Killorn, Shade, and Farley are not far behind. They're supposed to be on the other side of the prison, emptying the far cell blocks. Something has forced them in. Or trapped them entirely. Before I can call out, I'm falling again, as the block seems to spin. But it's not the cells that are moving. It's gravity itself. "Gareth! Stop!" I shout into the void. No one answers. At least, no one I want to hear. Little lightning girl. Her voice almost splits my skull in two. Queen Elara. This time I wish for the sounder device. I wish for something to kill me, to give me the safety of death. I am still falling. Perhaps that will do it. Maybe I'll die before she wriggles into my brain and turns me loose on everything and everyone I care about. But I feel the tendrils in my mind already taking hold. My fingers twitch at her command, and sparks jump between them. No, please no. I hit the other side of the block hard, probably breaking my arm, but I feel no pain. She takes it away. With one last ragged scream, I do what I must and use the last drops of my own free will to slip between the twisted bars beneath me into the prison of silent stone. It shatters my ability and hers. The sparks die, her control breaks, and blinding pain sears through my left arm and up into my shoulder. I laugh through my tears. How fitting. She built this prison to hurt me and the other new bloods. Now it's the only thing stopping her from doing just that. Now, it is my last sanctuary. From my place on the back wall of the cell, I guess it's the floor now, I watch the mist dance. The gunfire slows, either because bullets are running low, or it's impossible to aim in such terrible visibility. A curling snake of flame blazes by, and I expect to see Cal follow, but his shape never appears. I call for him anyway. "Cal!" But my voice is weak. The stone that saved me is taking hold. It presses like a weight against my neck. She doesn't take long to find me. Her boots edge the bars of my cage, and for a second I think I must be hallucinating. This is not the glittering, glorious queen I remember. Gone are her dresses and jewels, replaced by a neat navy blue uniform with white detailing. Even her hair, usually perfectly curled and braided, has been slicked back into a simple bun. When I see gray at her temples, I laugh again. The first time we met, You were in a cell just like this, she muses, stooping so she can see me better. Bars did not stop me then, and they will not stop me now. Come in, then, I tell her, spitting blood, definitely missing a tooth. Still the same girl you were. I thought the world would change you, but instead, she tips her head, smiling like a cat. You changed a little bit of the world. If you give me your hand, you can change even more. I can barely breathe through my laughter. How stupid do you think I am? Keep her talking, keep her distracted. Someone will see her soon, someone must. Have it your way, then, she sighs, standing. She gestures to someone I can't see. Guards, I realize, with a hollow, sinking resignation. Her hand reappears with a pistol, her finger already on the trigger. I would have liked to be in your head once again. You have such lovely delusions. A small victory, I think, shutting my eyes. She will never have the lightning, and she will never have me. A victory indeed. Again, I feel myself falling, but instead of the bullet, the bars smack against my face. I open my eyes in time to see Ilara sailing away from me, the gun spilling from her hand, a look of terrible anger twisting her beautiful face. Her guards scatter with her, disappearing into the yellowed clouds, and someone grabs my good arm, pulling me to him. Come on, Mare, I can't get you through on my own, Shade says, trying to ease me through the bars. Breathless, I squeeze, pulling as much of myself as I can through. I guess it's enough, because suddenly the world shrinks, the mist disappears, and I open my eyes to see blinding white tile. I almost collapse with joy when I see Sarah sprinting toward me, her hands outstretched, with Killorn and Julian on her heels. I really do. Someone else catches me, someone warm. He turns me on my side, and I hiss when my arm catches a bit of the pressure. Arm first, then burns, then scars, Cal says, all business. I can't help but moan when Sarah touches me, and a blissful numbing spreads through my arm. Something cool hits my back, healing the burns, which were certainly infected. But before the healing can spread to my ugly, gnarled scars, I'm pulled to my feet and out of Sarah's control. The door at the end of the corridor explodes outward, broken apart by rapidly growing twists of tree trunk. The mist follows, spinning toward us at great speed. The shadows come last. I know who they belong to. Cal throws a blast of fire at the oncoming branches, burning them back, but the charred embers simply join the roaring whirlwind. Cameron? I yell, craning my head to look for the one person who can stop Ilara, but she's nowhere to be found. She's already out, now go! Killorn yells at me, pushing me ahead. I know I'm what Ilara wants, not only for my ability, but for my face. If she can control me, she can use me as a mouthpiece again, to lie to the country, to do as she says. That's why I run faster than the others. I have always been the fast one. When I look back over my shoulder, I'm yards ahead, and what I see chills me. Cal has to forcibly pull Julian along, not because he's weak, but because he keeps trying to stop. He wants to face her, he wants to pit his voice against her mind, against her whispers, to avenge a dead sister, a wounded love, a broken and torn apart pride. But Cal won't lose the last piece of family he has left, and all but drags Julian away. Sarah keeps close to Julian's side, one hand in his, unable to scream in fear. Then, I turn the corner and I hit something. No, someone. Another woman, another person I never wanted to see again. Ara, the panther, the head of House Iral, glares at me with eyes black as coal. Her fingers are still tinged gray-blue by silent stone, and her clothes are tattered rags, but her strength is already returning, evidenced by the pure steel in her gaze. No way around but through. I raise my lightning to kill her, another one who knew I was different all along. She reacts before I can, grabbing my shoulders with agility no human should possess. But instead of breaking my neck or slitting my throat, she tosses me sideways and something ruffles my hair. A curved, spinning blade, sharp as a razor, big as a dinner plate, flies past my face, centimeters from my nose. I hit the ground, gasping in shock, clutching at the head I almost lost. And above me, Ara Iral stands her ground, dodging every blade that sails over us. They're coming from the opposite end of the hall, where another person from the past stands, forming metal discs from the plates of his familiar scale armor. "Didn't your father ever teach you respect for your elders?" Ara crows at Ptolemus, stepping neatly under another blade. The next one she pulls out of the air and tosses it back at him, an impressive but useless trick, as he waves it off with a curled smirk. "Well, Red, aren't you going to do something?" she adds, towing my leg. I stare at her, stunned for a moment. Then I clamber to my feet, forcing myself to stand. A little bit of my terror disappears. "With pleasure, my lady." At the end of the corridor, Ptolemus's grin widens. "Now to finish what my sister started in the arena," he growls. "What your sister ran from," I call back, directing a bolt at his head. He throws himself sideways against the wall, and in the time it takes him to recover, Ara closes the distance between them and leaps, kicking off the tile wall. Using the momentum, she breaks Ptolemus's jaw with her elbow. I follow, and judging by the pounding footsteps behind me, I'm not the only one. Fire and lightning, mist and wind, metal rain, curling darkness, explosions like tiny stars, and bullets, always bullets, close behind. We move forward through the battlestorm, praying for an end to this prison, following the map we all did our best to memorize. It should be here, no here, no here. In the mist and shadows, it's easy to get lost. And then there's Gareth, always spinning the bounds of gravity, sometimes doing more harm than good. When we finally find the entrance hall, the room with red and silver and black doors, I'm bruised all over again and my strength is fading fast. I don't even want to think about the others, Julian and Sarah, who could barely walk earlier. We need to get in the open, to the sky, to the lightning that can save us all. Outside, the sun has risen. Ara and Ptolemus continue their visceral dance as the wash looms, a gray haze on the horizon. I only have eyes for the black run and the other jet idling on the runway. A crowd swarms around the crafts, new blood and silver alike, boarding everything within reach. Some disappear into the fields, hoping to escape on foot. "Shade, get him to the jet!" I yell, grabbing Cal by the collar as we run. Before he can protest, Shade does as instructed and jumps him 100 yards away. I can always count on Shade to understand. Cal is one of our only 2 pilots. He cannot die here, not when we're so close to getting away. We need him to fly and fly well. A split second later, Shade returns, wrapping his arms around Julian and Sarah. They disappear with him, and I breathe a small sigh of relief. I call on everything I have left, down to the deepness of my bones. It makes me slow, makes me weak, taking my will and turning it into something stronger. To my delight, the sky darkens. Killorn stops next to me, his rifle tucked against his shoulder. He shoots with precision, picking off our pursuers one by one. Many men step in front of the Queen, protecting her, whether by their own volition or hers. She'll be within range soon, of both my ability and her own. I have only one chance. It happens in slow motion. I glance at the 2 silvers locked in battle between me and the jets. A long, thin blade, like a giant needle, cuts through Ara's neck, spilling a silver fountain. Ptolemus spins with the momentum, directing it through her, at me. I move to duck, expecting what I think is the worst. I can't possibly see what's coming. Only one person could. John. He walked away from all this. He let this happen. He didn't want to warn us. He didn't care. Shade appears in front of me, intending to take me away from all this. Instead, he gets a cruel, gleaming needle through his heart. He doesn't realize what's happening. He doesn't feel any pain. He dies before his knees hit the ground. I don't remember anything else until we're in the air. My face runs with tears, but I can't wipe them away. I stare at my hands, painted in both colors of blood. 27. This is not the Black Run. Instead, Cal pilots a massive cargo jet built to carry heavy transports or machinery. Now the cargo bay holds over 300 escaped prisoners, many injured, all shell-shocked. Most are new bloods, but there are also silvers among them, keeping to themselves, biding their time. For today, at least, they all look the same, cloaked in rags, exhaustion, and hunger. I don't want to go down to them, so I stick to the upper level of the jet. At least it's quiet in this section, separated from the bay by a narrow stairwell, and from the cockpit by a closed door. I can't make myself move past the two bodies at my feet. One lies beneath a white sheet, stained only by the blossom of red blood over his pierced heart. Farley kneels over him, frozen, a hand under the sheet to clutch my brother's cold, dead fingers. The other corpse I refuse to cover. Ilara looks ugly in death. Lightning twisted her muscles, pulling her mouth into a sneer even she couldn't muster while alive. Her simple uniform is cooked to her skin, and her ash-blonde hair is almost gone, burned away until only stringy patches remain. The other bodies, her guards, were just as deformed. We left them rotting on the runway, but the Queen is still unmistakable. Everyone will know this corpse. I'll make sure of it. You should go lie down. The body unsettles Killorn, that much is clear. I don't know why. We should be dancing on her bones. Let Sarah check you out. Tell Cal to change course. He blinks at me, perplexed. Change course? What are you talking about? We're going back to the Notch, back home. Home. I scoff at such a childish word. We're going back to Tuck. Tell him, please. Mayor, please. He doesn't move. Have you gone crazy? Do you remember what happened back there, what the Colonel will do to you if you come back? Crazy. I wish. I wish my mind would snap from the torture my life has become. That would be such a relief, to simply go mad. He can certainly try, but there are too many of us now, even for him. And when he sees what I bring him, I doubt he'll refuse us this time. The body? He breathes, visibly shaking. It's not the corpse scaring him. I realize quietly. It's me. You're going to show him the body? I'm going to show everyone. Again, firmer. Tell Cal to change course. He will understand. The jab stings Killorn, but I don't care. He hardens, drawing back to do as I tell him. The cockpit door shuts behind him, but I barely notice. I'm preoccupied with more important things than petty insults. Who is he to question my orders? He's no one. A fish boy with only good luck and my foolishness to protect him. Not like Shade, a teleporter, a new blood, a great man. How can he be dead? And he is not the only one. No, there are certainly others left to make the prison their tomb. We'll only know when we land, and can see who else escaped on the Black Run. And we will be landing on the island compound, not trekking to some lonely backwoods cave. Did Josiah tell you about this? The first words Farley's spoken since we left Koros. She hasn't wept yet, but her voice sounds hoarse, as if she spent the last few days screaming. Her eyes are horrible, ringed with red, the irises a vivid blue. That fool, John, who told us to do this, she continues, turning to face me. Did he tell you Shade would die? Did he? I suppose it was an easy price for the Lightning Girl to pay, so long as it meant more new bloods for you to control, more soldiers in a war you have no idea how to fight. One measly brother for more followers to kiss your feet. Not a bad trade, was it? Especially with the Queen thrown in. Who cares about a dead man no one knows, when you could have her corpse? My slap sends her back a step, more in surprise than pain. She catches the sheet as she falls, pulling it sideways, revealing my brother's pale face. At least his eyes are closed. He could be only sleeping. I move to tug the sheet back into place. I can't look at him long. But she hits me with her shoulder, using her considerable height to drive me into the wall. The cockpit door bangs open, and the two boys rush out, drawn by the noise. In an instant, Cal takes Farley down, tapping the back of her knee so she stumbles. Killorn is less fancy, simply wrapping both his arms around me, hoisting me clean off the ground. "He was my brother!" I yell at her. She screams her response. "He was far more than that!" Her words trigger a memory. When she doubts. John told me to tell her something. When she doubts. And Farley certainly doubts now. "John did tell me something," I say, trying to push off Killorn. "Something for you to hear." She lunges, reaching, and Cal pushes her back down again. He gets an elbow to the face for the trouble, but doesn't relinquish his firm hold on her shoulders. She isn't going anywhere, yet she continues to struggle. "Farley, you never know when to quit. I used to admire you for it. Now I only pity you. He told me the answer to your question." It stops her short, her breath coming in tiny, frightened puffs. She stares, wide-eyed. I can almost hear her heart beating. "He said yes." I don't know what that means, but it levels her. She slumps, falling on her hands, and bows her head behind a short curtain of blonde hair. I see the tears anyway. She isn't going to fight anymore. Cal knows it too, and backs away from her shaking form. He almost trips on Ilara's deformed arm and shies away from it, flinching. "Give her space," he murmurs, and seizes me by the arm in a bruising grip. He all but drags me away, despite my protests. I don't want to leave her. Not Farley, but Ilara. Despite her wounds, her burns, and her glassy eyes, I don't trust her corpse to stay dead. A foolish worry, but I feel it all the same. "By my colors, what's the matter with you?" he snarls, slamming the cockpit door behind us, shutting out Farley's low sobs and Killorn's scowl. "You know what Shade was to her. You know what he was to me," I reply. Being civil isn't at the top of my list, but I try. My voice quivers anyway. "My closest brother. I lost him before and now again. This time he isn't coming back. There's no coming back." "You don't see me screaming at people." "You're right, you just kill them." Breath hisses between my teeth. Is that what this is about? I almost laugh at him. At least one of us can. I expect a screaming match at the very least. What I get is worse. Cal takes a step back, bumping against the instrument panel, trying to put as much distance as he can between us. Usually I'm the one to pull away, but not anymore. Something breaks behind his eyes, betraying the wounds he hides beneath his flaming skin. "What happened to you, Mare?" he whispers. What hasn't happened to me? A single day without worry, that's what. All to prepare me for this, for the fate I bought myself, with the mutations of my blood, and the many mistakes I've chosen to make, Cal included. My brother just died, Cal. But he shakes his head, never looking away from me. His gaze burns. You killed those men in the command center. You and Cameron. Well, they begged. Shade wasn't dead then. Don't blame this on him. They were Silver. I am Silver. I am Red. Don't act like you haven't killed hundreds of us. Not for me. Not the way you kill. I was a soldier following orders, obeying my king. And they were just as innocent as I was when my father was alive. Tears prick my eyes, begging to be spilled. Faces swim before me, murdered soldiers and officers, too many to count. Why are you saying this to me? I whisper. I did what I had to stay alive, to save people, to save you. You stupid, stubborn prince of nothing. You of all people should know the burden I carry. How dare you try to make me feel guiltier than I already do? She wanted to turn you into a monster. He nods toward the door, and the twisted body behind it. I'm just trying to make sure that doesn't happen. Ilara is dead. The words taste sweet as wine. She's gone. She can't hurt me. She can't control anyone anymore. But still, you feel no remorse for the dead. You do whatever you can to forget them. You abandoned your family without a word. You can't control yourself. Half the time you run away from leadership, and the other half you act like some untouchable martyr crowned in guilt. The only person who's really giving herself to the cause. Look around you, Mayor Barrow. Shade's not the only one who died in Koros. You are not the only one to make sacrifices. Farley betrayed her father. You forced Cameron to join us against her will. You chose to ignore everything but Julian's list, and now you want to abandon the kids back at the Notch? For what? To step on the Colonel's neck? To take a throne? To kill anyone who looks at you the wrong way? I feel like a child being scolded, unable to speak, to argue, to do anything but keep from crying. It takes everything to keep my sparks contained. And you still hold on to Maven, a person who doesn't exist. He might as well put a hand around my throat and squeeze. You looked through my things? I'm not blind. I watched you take the notes off the bodies. I thought you'd rip them up. But when you didn't, I suppose I wanted to see what you were going to do. Burn them, throw them away, send them back dipped in silver blood, but not keep them, not read them while I slept next to you. You said you missed him too. You said so. I whisper. I have to refrain from stamping my foot like a frustrated child. He's my brother. I miss him in a very different way. Something sharp scrapes my wrist, and I realize I'm scratching myself in my misery, creating a physical pain to mask the agony inside. He watches conflicted. Every single thing I did, you stood behind me, I say. If I'm turning into a monster, then so are you. He drops his gaze. Love blinds. If this is your idea of love, I don't know if you love anyone at all. He snaps. If you see anything out there but tools and weapons, people to manipulate and control, to sacrifice. There is no possible defense to such an accusation. How can I prove him wrong? How can I make him see what I've done, what I'm trying to do, what I've become to keep everyone I care about safe? How badly I've failed. How terrible I feel. How the scars and memories ache. How deeply he's wounded me with such words. I cannot prove my love for him, or Killorn, or my family. I cannot put such feelings into words, nor should I have to. So I don't. After the Archeon bombing, Farley and the Scarlet Guard used a Silver News broadcast to claim responsibility. I speak slowly, methodic and calm in my explanation. It's the only thing keeping me sane. I'm going to do the same now, with the Queen's body. I'm going to show every single person in this kingdom, the woman I killed, and the people she kept locked up, New Blood and Silver. I am finished letting Maven control this game by spouting his lies to the kingdom. What we've done isn't enough to bring him down. We need to let the country do it for us. Cal's mouth gapes open. Civil war? House against house, silver against silver. Only Reds will stand united, and we will win because of it. Norta will fall, and we will rise, red as the dawn. A simple, costly, lethal plan on both sides, but a step we must take. They forced us down this road long ago. I am only doing what must be done. You can collect the Notch children after we land in Tuck, but I need the Colonel and I need his resources to get this in motion. Do you understand that? He barely nods. And after, well, I will go north to the Choke, to the ones I've so willingly abandoned. You can do as you like, Your Highness. Mayor. He grazes my arm and I flinch away, almost hitting the wall. Don't touch me anymore. The words sound like a slamming door. I suppose they are. Tuck is quiet and disgustingly bright. No clouds, no wind, just brisk autumn and sunlight. Shade shouldn't have died on such a beautiful day, but he did. Too many did. I am the first to step down from the cargo plane with 2 covered stretchers close behind. Killorn and Farley hover by one, each of them resting a hand on shade. But the other stretcher is what I care about now. The men holding her up seem afraid of her body just like I was. The last few hours of quiet reflection, staring at Ilara's cold corpse, have been a strange comfort. She is not going to wake up. Just like Cal will never speak to me again. Not after everything we said to each other. I don't know where he is in the line, or if he's even coming down at all. I tell myself not to worry. Thinking about him is a waste. I have to shield my eyes to see the Colonel's blockade across the runway. He perches atop a medical transport surrounded by nurses in white shifts. Ada must have radioed ahead to tell him we would sorely need help. Her black run is already here, the only dark shadow in sight. When the first of the prisoners hit the runway behind me, the familiar black ramp descends from the other jet. Fewer than I thought get out, following Ada. She begins the brisk march toward the wall of armed Lakelanders, stoic guardsmen, and curious onlookers. Quietly, I curse myself. My family will be back there, waiting to see their children, but they'll find only one of us. You don't care about your family. Maybe Cal was right, because I certainly forget them more than any sane person should. That's far enough, Miss Barrow. The Colonel barks, holding up a hand. I do as he asks, halting 5 yards away. From this close, I can see the guns pointed at us, but more important, the men behind the bullets. They're alert, but not on edge. They have no kill orders, not yet. Have you come to return what you've stolen? I force a laugh, putting us both at ease. I come with a gift, Colonel. The corner of his mouth lifts. Is that what you call these? He searches for the right word to describe the ragged folk following me. People? They were prisoners until this morning at a secret facility called Koros, jailed by the command of King Maven, left to be experimented on, tortured, and murdered. I glance behind me, expecting to see broken hearts and minds. Instead, I see unflagging pride. The little girl, the one who almost fell off the catwalk, looks close to tears, but her tiny fists clench at her sides. She won't cry. They are new bloods, like me. Behind the girl, a protective teenager with too pale skin and orange hair stands like her guard. And Silver's too, Colonel. He reacts as I expect him to. You fool! You brought Silvers here! He shouts, panicking. Ready guns! The line of Lakelanders, too deep and probably about 20 wide, does as he commands, their guns click in unison, sliding bullets into chambers. Ready to fire. Behind me, the prisoners flinch, drawing back. But no one begs. They are done begging. Hollow threats. I fight the urge to smile. His hand flies to the pistol at his hip. Don't try me. I know your orders, Colonel, and they are not to kill the Lightning Girl. Command wants me alive, don't they? I remember Ellie Whistle, one of many guardsmen instructed to help me in my endeavors. She was no match for the Colonel, but the Colonel is no match for Command, whoever they may be. The Colonel loses some of his edge, but doesn't back down. Bring her forward, I snap, looking to the stretchers. The two men do as I say as quickly as they can. They lay Ilara's stretcher at my feet. The guns follow their every shaking step. I feel the crosshairs even now, on my heart, my brain, over every inch. Your gift, Colonel. I tow the stretcher, nudging the body beneath the white sheet. Don't you want to see it? His good eye flashes, almost too quick to discern. It finds Farley in the crowd, and the crease in his brow disappears a little. With a sickening jolt, I realize why. He thought I killed her. Who is it, Barrow? The prince? Have you murdered the best bargaining chip you had? Hardly, a voice calls from the crowd. Cal. I don't turn to look at him, electing to focus on the Colonel instead. He holds my gaze, never wavering. Slowly, One hand raised, the other reaching, I pull away the sheet, laying her out for everyone to see. Her limbs have gone stiff. Her fingers are especially twisted, and bits of bone show through the flesh of her right hand. The gunmen are the first to react, lowering their weapons a little. One or two even gasp, covering their mouths to stifle the sound. The colonel is completely silent and still, content to stare. After a long moment, he blinks. "Is that who I think it is?" he says hoarsely. I nod. "Ilara of House Mirandus, Queen of Norta, mother to the king, killed by New Bloods and Silvers, in the prison she built for them." That explanation should stay his hand for the moment. His red eye gleams. "What do you plan to do with this?" "The king and this country deserve a chance to say goodbye to her, don't you think?" The colonel looks just like Farley when he smiles. "Again," Colonel Farley barks, moving back into position. "My name is Mayor Barrow," I tell the camera, trying not to sound foolish. After all, this is the 6th time I've introduced myself in the last 10 minutes. "I was born in the Stilts, a village in the capital River Valley. My blood is red, but because of this," I stretch out my hands, allowing 2 balls of sparks to rise, "I was brought to the court of King Tiberius VI and given a new name, a new life, and made into a lie. They called me Marina Titnos and told the world I was Silverborn. I am not." Flinching, I draw the knife across my palm, over already torn flesh. My blood winks like rubies in the harsh light of the empty hangar. "King Maven told you this was a trick." Sparks dance through the gash. "It is not. And neither are the others like me. All of you born red with strange silver abilities. The king knows you exist, and he is hunting you down. I tell you now, run. Find me, find the Scarlet Guard." Next to me, the colonel straightens proudly. He wears a red scarf around his face, as if his bleeding eye wasn't identification enough. But I'm not complaining. He's agreed to take in the New Bloods, having seen the error of his ways. He now knows the value and the strength of people like me. He can't afford to make enemies of us too. Unlike the Silver Kings, we see no division between ourselves and other Reds. We will fight for you, and we will die for you, if it means a new world. Put down the axe, the shovel, the needle, the broom. Pick up the gun. Join us. Fight. Rise. Red as the dawn. The next part turns my stomach, and I want to scrub my skin with acid. When my fingers knot in her frayed hair, holding her head up to face the decrepit, sputtering camera, I'm fighting tears. As much as I hate her, I hate this more. It feels against nature, against anything good I might have left inside myself. I've already lost Cal, thrown him away. But now I feel I'm losing my soul. And yet, I speak the words I must. I believe in them, and they help a little. Fight and win. This is Ilara, Queen of Norta, and we have killed her. This war is not impossible, and with you it can be won for good. I hold my position, trying my best not to blink. Tears will fall if I do. I think of anything but the corpse in my hands. Even now, guardsmen are leaving their strongholds to wait for anyone to answer our call. "Arm yourselves, my brothers and sisters," the colonel says, stepping forward. "You outnumber your masters, and they know it. They fear it. They fear you and what you will become. Look to the whistles in the woods. They will lead you home." After 6 attempts, we finally finish in perfect unison. Rise, red as the dawn. As for the Silvers of Norta, I speak quickly, tightening my grip on Ilara. Your king and queen have lied to you and betrayed you. The Scarlet Guard liberated a prison this morning, and inside we found red and silvers both. Missing members of House Iral, Larolan, Skonos, Jakos, and more. wrongfully imprisoned, tortured with silent stone, left to die for non-existent crimes. They are with us now, and they are alive. Your lost ones live. Rise to help them. Rise to avenge the ones we could not save. Rise and join us, for your king is a monster. I glare deep into the camera, knowing he will see this. Maven is a monster. The colonel gapes at me, affronted. The camera stops. He tears away his scarf in his anger. What are you doing, Barrow? I stare back at him. I'm making your life a whole lot easier. Divide and conquer, Colonel. I point to the crew working the camera, not bothering to remember their names. You go to the Silver Barracks, get some film of them. Don't show the guards. Mark my words, this will set the country on fire, and even Maven won't be able to put it out. They don't need to speak to show they agree. I turn on my heel. I'm done. The colonel follows me, dogging my steps even when I push my way out of the hangar. Barrow, I didn't say we were finished, he growls. But when I stop short, so does he. I don't need lightning to frighten people. Not anymore. Make me turn around, Colonel. I extend my arm, daring him to pull, daring him to test me. Go on. Once, this man put Cal in a cell. He leads who knows how many soldiers and killed however many more men. I don't know how many battles he's seen, or how many times he's cheated death. He has no right to be afraid of a girl like me. But he is. I return to Tuck his equal, better than his equal. And he knows it. I spin to face him slowly, and only because it now suits me to do so. What changed you, Colonel? Because I know it wasn't your own good sense, or even the orders of your command. After a long, drawn-out moment, he nods. Follow me. They've been asking to meet you. 28. Tuck seems smaller than I remember. With the 300 from Koros as well as the colonel's own reinforcements clustering all over the island. He leads me past them all, setting a pace I must struggle to match. Many of the new soldiers are Lakelanders, smuggled from the far north like the guns and food streaming in from the docks. But there are a good number of Nortons as well. Farmers, servants, deserters, even some tattooed techies drill in the open space between barracks. Many have come over the last few months. They are the first of many outrunning the measures, and more will certainly follow. I would smile at the thought, but smiling comes too hard these days. It hurts my scars and my head. Back on the runway, a familiar jet roars, and the Black Run climbs into the sky. Headed for the notch, I'll bet, with Cal at the controls. All the better. I don't need him skulking around, watching and judging my every move. Barracks 1. Last time I entered in secret, now I enter in broad daylight with the colonel at my side. We walk through the narrow passages of the underwater bunker, and his Lakelanders step aside to let me pass every juncture. I'm acutely aware of this place. Once I was its prisoner, but I no longer fear anything down here. We follow the piping in the ceiling toward the pulsing heart of the barracks and the entire island. The control room is small, but crowded, filled with screens, radio equipment, and maps on every flat surface. I expect to see Farley barking orders, but she's nowhere to be found. Instead, there's a healthy mix of Lakelander blue and Guard red. 2 men are different, wearing thick, faded green uniforms with black detailing. I have no idea what country or kingdom they stand for. Clear the room, the colonel murmurs. He has no reason to shout, they obey him quickly. Except for the pair in green. I get the feeling they've been waiting for this. They move in strange unison, turning toward us in perfect sync. Both wear badges on their uniforms, a white circle with a dark green triangle inside. The same marks I saw on smuggled crates the last time I was here. The men are twins. The unsettling kind. Identical, but somehow more than that. Both have curly black hair, tight, like a cap. Mud-colored eyes, brown skin, and immaculate beards. A scar is the only difference between them. One has a jagged line on the right cheek, the other the left. To distinguish them. With a cold shudder, I realize they even blink at the same time. Miss Barrow, a pleasure to meet you at last. Right Scar extends his hand, but I'm loath to take it. He doesn't seem to mind, and presses on. My name is Rash, and my brother Tahir, at your service. The other cuts in. They bow their heads gracefully, again in startling unison. We have traveled far to find you and yours, and waited for what feels like even longer. Rash finishes for him. He eyes the colonel, and I catch a flicker of distaste deep in his eyes. We bring you a message and an offer. From whom? I feel breathless, almost dizzy. Surely these men are new bloods, their bond is not a natural one, and they are neither Norton nor Lakelander. Traveled far, they said. From where? They speak in melodic chorus. The Free Republic of Montfort. Suddenly I wish Julian were at my side to help me remember his lessons and the maps he kept so close. Montfort, a mountain nation, so far away it could be the other side of the world. But Julian told me it was like Piedmont to the south, ruled by a collection of princes, all of them silver. I don't understand, neither did Colonel Farley, says Tahir. Rash cuts in. For the Republic is well guarded, hidden by mountains, snows, walls, and by design. This is very annoying. My apologies, Rash adds, noting my discomfort. Our mutation links our brains. It can be quite unsettling. I finish for him, drawing a smile from them both. But the colonel continues to scowl, his red eye gleaming. So, you're new bloods too? Like me? A double nod. In Montfort, we are called the Ardents, but it differs from nation to nation. No one can agree on what to call the red and silver ones, Tahir says. There are many of us all over this world, some in the open, as in the Republic, or hidden, as it is in your country. He turns his gaze on the colonel, speaking with two meanings. But our bonds run deeper than the borders of nations. We protect our own, for no one else will. Montfort has been hiding for 20 years, building a republic from the ashes of brutal oppression. I believe you understand that. I do indeed. I don't even care that I'm grinning, despite the pain it causes. But we are not hiding now. We have an army and a fleet of our own, and they will not be idle any longer, not while kingdoms like Norta, the Lakelands, and all the rest still stand, not while Reds die and Ardents face even worse fates. Ah, so the colonel accepts us not out of goodness or even necessity, but fear. Another player has joined the game, one he does not understand. They share an enemy, at least, that much is clear. Silvers, people like Maven. We share an enemy too. But a chill goes through me, one I cannot ignore. Cal is silver. Julian is silver. What do they think of them? Like the colonel, I must sit back and see what these people truly want. Premier Davidson, the leader of the Republic, sent us as ambassadors to extend a hand of friendship to the Scarlet Guard, Rash says, his own hand twitching on his thigh. Colonel Farley willingly accepted this alliance 2 weeks ago, as have his superiors, the Red Generals of Command. Command. Farley's cryptic words seem so close now. She never explained what she meant. But now I begin to see a little more of the Guard. I have never heard of the Red Generals, but I keep my face still. They don't know how much or how little, I am told. Judging by the way the twins are talking, they think me a leader too, with control over the Scarlet Guard. I barely have control over myself. We've allied with similar groups and subsects in nations across the continent, forming a complex network like spokes of a wheel. The Republic is the hub. Rash's eyes bore into mine. We offer safe passage to any of the Ardents here, to a country that will not only protect you but offer you freedom. They need not fight. They need only live and live free. That is our offer. My heart beats wildly. You need only live. How many times have I wished for such a thing? Too many to count. Even back in the stilts, when I thought I was painfully normal, when I was nothing, I only wanted to live. The stilts taught me the value and the rarity of an ordinary life, but it also taught me something else, a more valuable lesson. Everything has its price. And what do you ask in return? I murmur, not wanting to hear his answer. Rash and Tahir exchange loaded glances, their eyes narrowing in silent communication. I don't doubt the brothers can speak to each other without words, whispering, like Ilara once did. Premier Davidson requests that you escort them, they say together. A request. There's no such thing. You are a firebrand in your own right, and will be of great help to the coming war. They need not fight. I should have known that wouldn't apply to me. You will have your own unit, your own hand-picked Ardents at your side. A new-blood king will sit the throne you built him. Cameron said that to me a few days ago, when I forced her to join us. Now I know exactly how she felt, and how horribly true her words could be. But only Ardents, I reply, moving steadily to my feet. Only new bloods? Tell me, what is it truly like in your republic? Have you simply traded silver masters for new ones? The brothers stay seated, watching me with keen eyes. You misunderstand, says Tahir. He taps the scar below his left eye. We are like you, Mayor Barrow. We have suffered for what we are, and simply wish for no one else to meet this fate. We offer sanctuary for our kind. You, especially. Liars, both of them. They offer nothing but another stage for me to stand on and perform. I'm fine where I am. I look to the colonel, focusing on his good eye. He's not scowling anymore. I won't run away, not now. There are things that must be handled here. Red problems that you need not bother with. You may take any new blood who wants to go with you, but not me. And if you try to make me do anything against my will, I'll fry you both. I don't care what color your blood is or how free you claim to be. Tell your leader I can't be bought with promises. And what of action? Rash offers, raising one manicured eyebrow. Would that sway you to the leader's side? I've walked this road before. I've had my fill of kings, no matter what they're called. But spitting on the twins will get me nowhere, so I shrug instead. Show me action and we'll see. Chuckling, I turn to go. Bring me Maven Kalor's head, and your leader can use me as a footstool. Tahir's response chills my blood. You killed the she-wolf. It should be nothing at all to kill the pup. I exit the control room at a brisk march. Strange, Miss Barrow. What? I growl, snarling to face the colonel. He can't even let me walk out of this barracks in peace. His open expression takes me aback, displaying something like understanding. He is the last person I expect to understand. You came here with so many more followers, but you lost the ones you left with. He raises an eyebrow, leaning against the cold, damp wall of the passage. The village boy, your prince, and my daughter all seem to be avoiding you. And of course your brother. One quick step forward stops him short, frightening him into silence. My condolences, he murmurs after a long moment. It's never easy to lose a family member. I remember the photograph in his quarters. He had another daughter, and a wife. 2 people who aren't here now. We all need some time, I tell him, hoping that's enough. Don't give them too much. It's not good to let them dwell on your sins. I can't find the heart to argue because he's right. I lashed out at the people closest to me and showed them the monster beneath my skin. "And what about this red problem you mentioned?" he continues. "Anything I should know about?" Back on the jet, I told Cal I was going north. Half of me said it out of anger, to prove something to him. The other half said it because it is the right thing to do, because I've ignored things for far too long. A few days ago, we intercepted a march order. The first of the child legions is being sent to the choke. My breath hitches, remembering what Ada said. They're going to be massacred, ordered to march out past the trenches right into the kill zone. 5,000 of them, slaughtered. "New bloods," the colonel prods. I shake my head, not that I know of. He settles a hand on his pistol, draws up his spine, and spits at the floor. "Well, Command did order me to help you. I think it's time we did something useful together." The infirmary is quiet, a good place to wait. Sarah was allowed to leave the barracks designated for silver use, and she made quick work of anyone injured. Now the beds are empty but for one. I lie on my side, staring at the long window in front of me. The deceivingly blue sky has faded into steel gray. Another storm, maybe, or perhaps my eyes have darkened. I simply cannot see any more sunlight today. The sheets are soft, worn by too many washings, and I fight the urge to pull them up and over my head, as if that could stop the memories from coming, each one breaking hard as an iron wave. Shade's last moment, his eyes wide, one hand reaching for me before the blood burst from his chest. He was coming back to save me, and it got him killed. I feel like I did so many months ago, when I hid in the woods, unable to face Gisa and her broken hand. Now I can't stand the thought of returning to my family and seeing the hole Shade left behind. They are certainly wondering where I am, the girl who cost them a son. But it is not a barrow that finds me here. "Shall I come back later, or have you finished feeling sorry for yourself?" I sit up sharply, only to see Julian standing at the foot of my bed. His color has returned, as have his missing teeth, courtesy of Sarah. But for the mismatched clothes, leftovers from the tuck stores, he looks like his old self again. I expect a smile, maybe even a thank you, but not a scolding. Not from him. "Can't a girl get a moment's peace around here?" I huff, falling back against the thin pillow. "By my reckoning, you've been hiding for the better part of an hour. I think that's more than a moment, Mare." The old teacher is trying his best to be kind. It isn't working. "If you must know, I'm waiting on the colonel. We have an operation to plan, and he's rounding up volunteers as we speak." So there. But Julian isn't that easily deterred. "And you decided taking a nap was a better use of your time than, say, addressing the other new bloods, maybe calming down a bunch of very jumpy silvers, getting some medical attention, or even speaking with your own grieving family." "I have not missed your lectures, Julian." "You lie well, Mare," he says, smiling. He closes the distance between us almost too quickly, coming to sit beside me. He smells clean, fresh from a shower. This close, I can see how thin he's become, and the hollow emptiness of his eyes. Even Sarah cannot heal minds. "And a lecturer needs a listener. You are certainly not listening to me anymore." He lowers his voice and tips my face, making me look at him. I'm tired enough to let him. Or anyone, for that matter. Not even Cal. "Are you going to yell at me too?" He smiles sadly. "Have I ever?" "No," I whisper, wishing I didn't have to. "No, you haven't. And I'm not about to start now. I have only come to tell you what you need to hear. I will not make you listen. I will not make you obey. I leave you the choice, as it should be." "Okay. I told you once that anyone can betray anyone. I know you remember. Oh, do I remember. And I say it again. Anyone, anything can betray anyone, even your own heart. Julian, no one is born evil, just like no one is born alone. They become that way, through choice and circumstance. The latter you cannot control, but the former. Mare, I am very afraid for you. Things have been done to you. Things no person should suffer. You've seen horrible things, done horrible things, and they will change you. I'm so afraid for what you could be if given the wrong chance. So am I. I let my hand close around his. The connection is calming enough, but weak. Our bond is strained at best, and I don't know how to fix it. I will try, Julian, I murmur. I will try. In the back of my mind, I wonder, will Julian tell tales of me one day? When I have become something wretched, someone like Ilara, with nothing and no one to love her? Will I simply be the girl who tried? No, I cannot think that way. I will not. I am Mare Barrow. I am strong enough. I've done things, terrible things, and I don't deserve forgiveness for them. But I see it in Julian's eyes all the same, and it fills me with such hope. I will not become a monster no matter what I must do in the days ahead. I will not lose who I am, even if it kills me. Now, do you need me to walk you to your family's bunk, or can you find the way? I can't help but snort. Do you even know the way? It's not polite to question your elders, lightning girl. I had a teacher once who told me to question everything. His eyes twinkle, and he puffs out his weak chest proudly. Your teacher was a smart man. I notice his eyes lingering, and the light in them goes out. He stares at my exposed collarbone at the brand there. I debate covering it up, but decide not to move. I won't hide the M burned into me. Not from him. Sarah can fix that, he murmurs. Shall I get her? On shaky legs I stand. There are many scars I want her to heal, but not this one. No. Let it be a reminder to us all. Arm in arm we leave the empty infirmary. It echoes with our footsteps, a white room steadily fading to gray. Outside, a shade has been drawn across the world. Winter waits on our doorstep. It will knock soon, but I like the cold air. It wakes me up. As we cross the central yard, heading for Barracks 3, I take note of the compound. A few familiar faces mix in with the various groups, some training, others transporting goods or simply milling around. I spot Ada, sliding beneath a broken transport, an instruction manual in hand. Lori kneels next to her, sifting through a pile of tools. A few yards away, Darmian falls in with a troop of guardsmen, joining them on a jog. They're the only ones from the notch I see, and it turns my stomach. Cameron, Nix, Nanny, Gareth, Ketha? Where are they? I feel quite sick, but swallow the sensation. I only have the strength to mourn the person I know for sure is dead. Julian is not permitted to enter Barracks 3. He informs me of this with a tight-lipped smile, his words dripping disdain. There's no way to enforce the order, but he obeys it all the same. I'm just trying to be a good Silver, he says dryly. The Colonel's already been kind enough to let us out of our barracks. I would hate to betray his trust. I'll come find you after. I squeeze his shoulder. It must be getting pretty bad in there. Julian only shrugs. Sarah is taking her time healing. We don't want too many overpowered, underfed, and angry Silvers in an enclosed space. And they know what you did for them. They have no reason to make a fuss. Yet. Yet. A simple but effective warning. The Colonel doesn't know how to handle so many Silver refugees, and will certainly misstep soon. I'll do my best, I sigh, and add quelling a possible riot to my growing to-do list. Don't cry in front of Mom, apologize to Farley, figure out how to save 5,000 children, nanny a bunch of Silvers, put my head through a wall. seems doable. The barracks is as I remember, full of labyrinthine twists and turns. I get lost once or twice, but finally I find the door with the purple scarf tied to the doorknob. It's firmly shut, and I have to knock. Bree opens the door. His face is red from crying, and that almost does me in right then and there. "Took you long enough," he growls, stepping back so I can enter. I flinch at his harsh tone, but don't retaliate. Instead, I put a hand on his arm. He cringes, but doesn't pull away. "I'm sorry," I tell him, and then, louder, to the rest of the room. "I'm sorry I didn't come sooner." Gisa and Tramy sit on mismatched chairs. Mom curls up on one of the beds, with Dad in his chair firmly planted next to her. While she turns away, hiding her face in a pillow, he looks straight at me. "You had things to do," Dad says. Gruff as always, but more insulting than he's ever been. I deserve it. "We understand." I should have been here. I move farther into the room. How can I feel lost in such a small space? I brought his body back. "We've seen it," Bree snaps, taking a seat on the bunk, opposite Mom. It sags under his enormous weight. "One little blast of a needle and he's gone." I remember. I murmur before I can stop myself. Gisa twitches in her chair, her thin legs drawn up beneath herself. She flexes her bad hand, distracting herself. "Do you know who killed him?" "Ptolemus Samos. A magnetron. Back in the arena, Cal could have killed the wretched man, but he was merciful, and his mercy killed my brother." "I know that name," Tramy says, just to have something to fill the tense air. "He was one of your executioners. Couldn't get you, but he got Shade." It sounds like an accusation. I have to look down, examining my shoes instead of the hurt in his eyes. "Did you get him back, at least?" Bree gets to his feet again, unable to keep still. He towers over me, trying to look intimidating. He forgets that I'm not scared of brute force anymore. "Did you?" "I killed a lot of people." My voice breaks, but I soldier on. "I don't even know how many. I just know the Queen was one of them." On the bed, Mom pulls up, finally deciding to look at me. Her eyes swim with tears. "The Queen?" she whispers, breathless. "We have her body as well," I say, almost too eager. Talking about her corpse is easier than grieving for my brother. So I tell them about the broadcast, what we hope to do. The horrible thing should go out tonight, during the evening news bulletins. They're mandatory now, in addition to the measures, forcing every person in the kingdom to eat lies and propaganda with their dinner. A youthful, eager king, another victory in the trenches, and the like, but not tomorrow. Instead, Norta will see their dead queen, and the world will hear our call to arms. Bree paces, grinning madly at the thought of civil war, and Tramy follows, as he always does. They jabber between each other, already dreaming of marching into Archeon together and planting our red flag on the ruins of Whitefire Palace. Gisa is less enthusiastic. "I guess you won't be here for long," she says, forlorn. "They'll need you back on the mainland, recruiting again." "No, I won't be recruiting, at least not for a while." I can't stand the hope that sparks in them, especially Mom. I almost don't tell them at all, but the last time I left so suddenly, I won't do that to them again. I'm going to the choke, and soon. Dad roars so loudly I expect him to fall out of his wheelchair. "You will not while I still draw breath." He wheezes to emphasize his point. "No child of mine will ever return to that place, ever. And don't you dare tell me I can't stop you, because believe me, I can, and I will." Once, the choke took Dad's leg, and a lung. He gave so much to that place, and now I guess he thinks he's going to lose me to it too. I'm sure you would, Dad. I try to humor him. That usually works. But this time he waves me off, wheeling up to me so fast his leg bumps my shin. He glares like a demon, one quivering finger pointed at my face. Give me your word, Mayor Barrow. You know I can't do that. And I tell him why. 5,000 children, 5,000 sons and daughters. Cameron was right all along. The divisions of blood are still very real, and they can't be tolerated any longer. Let someone else go, he growls, trying his best not to fall apart. I never wished to see my father cry, and now I wish I could forget the sight. The Colonel, that prince, someone else can do it. He clutches my arm like a man at sea. Daniel, Mom's voice is soft, soothing, a single white cloud in an empty sky. Let her go. When I pry his hand from my wrist, I realize I'm crying too. We'll go with her. Bree barely gets the words out before I can tell him no. Dad's face purples, his sadness giving way to anger. Do you want me to die of a heart attack? He snarls, spinning to face my oldest brother. She's never been to the choke. She doesn't know what it's like up there. Tramey pipes in. We do. Spent almost a decade between us on the trench lines. I shake my head, putting out a hand to stop him before Dad really does lose it. The Colonel's coming. He's seen the choke too. There's no need. Maybe from the Lakelander side. Bree's already at his trunk, going through his things, looking for what to bring. But the Norton trenches are a different design. He'll be turned around in seconds. It's probably the smartest thing I've ever heard Bree say. He's not known for his brain, but then again, he survived almost 5 years on the lines. That's 4 years longer than most. It can't be luck. I realize instead this is bravery from both of them, more than I can possibly know. Once I thought about how much of my life my older brothers missed, but I've done the same. They are not as I remember. They are warriors, as much as I am. My silence is all they need to start packing. I wish I could tell them not to come. They would listen if I truly meant it. But I can't. I need them, just like I needed shade. I only hope I won't lead another brother into the grave. After a long moment, I realize I'm shaking. So I climb into bed next to my mother, and I let her hold me for a long while. I do my best not to cry. My best is not enough. 29. The mess hall is crowded, but not for a meal. The Colonel put out the call for a top priority operation only an hour ago, and the room bursts with his hand-picked men as well as volunteers. The Lakelanders are quiet, well-trained, and stoic. The guardsmen are much rowdier, though Farley is anything but. She's been reinstated as a captain, but shows no sign of noticing. She sits in silence, absently twisting a red scarf around her hands. When I enter the mess, flanked by my brothers, the noise dies away, and every eye watches me. Except Farley. She doesn't look up at all. Laurie and Darmian actually clap as I walk across the room, making me blush. Ada joins in, and then, to my delight, Nanny stands up next to her, as does Cameron. They made it. I exhale a little, trying to feel relieved. But there's still no sign of Nix, Gareth, or Ketha. They could have chosen not to come. They must be sick of danger by now. That's what I tell myself as I sit down next to Farley. Bree and Tramey follow, taking the seats directly behind me, like bodyguards. We are not the last to arrive. Herrick slips in, having just arrived from the Notch, and shoots me a curt nod. He holds the door open, allowing Killorn to enter. My heartbeat doubles when Cal follows, trailing at his heels, with Julian and Sarah behind him. My entrance was quiet. This is the opposite. At the sight of 3 silvers, many jump to their feet, mostly Lakelanders. In the din, it's hard to hear their shouts, but the meaning is clear. We do not want you here. Cal and I lock eyes through the commotion, if only for a second. He turns away first, finding a seat at the back of the room. Julian and Sarah stick close to his side, ignoring the jeers, while Killorn picks his way to the front. He drags a chair with him and plops down beside me. He gives me a casual nod as if we're just sitting down to lunch. "So, what's all this about?" he says, his voice loud enough to be heard over the noise. I stare at my friend, perplexed. The last time I saw him, he was prying me off Farley and looked disgusted with my existence. Now he's all but smiling. He even pulls an apple from his jacket and offers me first bite. Shaky, but sure, I take the gift. "You weren't yourself," he whispers in my ear. He pulls the apple away again, taking a bite. "Forget about it, but go off the rails like that again, and we'll have to settle this stilt style, yeah?" My scars twinge as I smile. "Yeah." And lower so only he can hear me. "Thank you." For a second he's still strangely thoughtful. Then he waves a hand, smirking. "Please, I've seen you way worse than that." A comforting lie, but I let him tell it anyway. "Now what's his top priority business? Your idea, the Colonel's." As if on cue, the Colonel enters the mess, his hands stretched wide, asking for silence. "Mine," I murmur, as the complaints fade away. "Quiet," he barks, his voice like a whip crack. The Lakelanders obey at once, taking their seats in practiced motion. His glare is enough to shut up the other dissenters. He points to the back of the room, to Cal, Julian, and Sarah. "Those three are Silver, yes, but proven allies to the cause. They have my permission to be here. You will treat them as you would any ally, any brother or sister at arms." It silences them all. For now. "You're here because you've volunteered for an operation without knowing what it is. That's true bravery, and I commend you all for it." He continues, taking his place at the front of the hall. I get the sense he's done this before. In this setting, the cropped hair and red eye give him an air of authority, as does his commanding voice. "As you know, the lowered conscription age has resulted in younger soldiers down to the age of 15. At present, one such legion is on their way to the war front, 5,000 strong, all with only 2 months of training." An angry murmur goes through the crowd. "We owe our gratitude to Mayor Barrow and her team for giving us this information." I can't help but flinch. My team. They belong to Farley or even Cal, but not to me. "Miss Barrow is also the first to volunteer to stop this tragedy before it happens." Killorn's neck cracks. He turns so quickly. He widens his green eyes, and I can't tell if he's angry or impressed. Maybe a little bit of both. "They've been nicknamed the Little Legion," I say, forcing myself to my feet so I can address the crowd properly. They stare at me, expectant, every eye like a knife. Lady Blanos's lessons will serve me well now. "According to our information, the children will be sent directly into the choke, past the trench lines. The king wants them dead, to scare our people into silence, and he'll succeed if we don't do something. I propose a 2-pronged operation led by Colonel Farley and myself. I will infiltrate the Legion outside Corvium, using soldiers who can pass for 15 in order to separate the Silver officers from the children. We will then proceed directly into the choke. I do my best to keep my eyes on the back wall, but they keep trailing back to Cal. This time I'm the one who has to look away. "That's suicide!" someone shouts. The colonel moves to my side, shaking his head. "My own unit will be waiting in the north, on the Lakelander trench line. I have contacts within that army, and I can buy Miss Barrow enough time to get across. Once she reaches me, we'll retreat to Lake Iris. 2 grain freighters should be enough to ferry us across, and from there we enter the disputed lands." "Ludicrous!" I don't need to look up to know Cal is standing. He's flushed, fists clenched, annoyed at such a foolish plan. I almost smile at the sight. 100 years, and no Norton army has ever crossed the choke. Ever. You think you can do it with a bunch of kids? He turns on me, imploring. You'd have better luck turning them back to Corvium, hiding in the woods, anything other than crossing a damned kill zone. The colonel takes this all in stride. How long since you entered the trenches, Your Highness? Cal doesn't falter. 6 months ago. 6 months ago, the Lakelanders had 9 legions on the line to match Norton numbers. As of today, they have 2. The choke is open, and your brother does not realize it. A trap? Or a diversion, then? Cal sputters, puzzling out what this could mean. The colonel nods. The Lakelanders plan to push across Lake Tarion, while your armies are busy defending a stretch of waste no one wants. Miss Barrow could walk across blindfolded and not get a scratch. And that's exactly what I intend to do. Slowly, surely, I steel my heart. I hope I look brave because I certainly don't feel it. Who's coming with me? Killorn is the first to stand, as I knew he would be. Many more follow. Cameron, Ada, Nanny, Darmian, even Herrick. But not Farley. She sits rooted, letting her lieutenant stand in her place. The scarf is wound too tight around her wrist, turning her hand faintly blue. I try not to look at him. I certainly try. At the back of the room, the exiled prince gets to his feet. He holds my gaze, as if his eyes alone could set me on fire. A waste. There is nothing in me left to burn. The graves in Tucked Cemetery are new, marked by freshly turned earth and a few woven bits of seagrass. Collected rocks stand in for headstones, each one painstakingly carved by loved ones. When we lower Shade's plank coffin into the ground, all of us Barrows standing around the hole, I realize we are lucky. We have a body to bury, at the very least. But there are so many other graves marking nothing but earth. Their names are carved too. Nyx, Ketha, and Gareth. Their bodies abandoned but not forgotten. According to Ada, they never got on the Black Run or the cargo jet. They died in Karos, along with 42 others by her impeccable count. But 300 survived. 300 traded for 45? A good deal, I tell myself. An easy bargain. The words sting, even in my head. Farley clutches herself against the cold wind, but refuses to wear a coat. The colonel is here too, standing a respectful distance away. He's here not for Shade, but his grieving daughter, though he makes no move to comfort her. To my surprise, Gisa takes her side, worming one arm around the captain's waist. When Farley lets her, the shock almost knocks me over. I didn't know the two ever met, but they're so familiar. Somehow beneath my grief, I manage to feel a bit of jealousy. No one tries to comfort me, not even Killorn. Shade's funeral is too much for him to bear, and he sits on the rise above, far away enough so that no one can see him cry. His head dips every once in a while, unable to watch when Bree and Tramy begin to shovel dirt into the grave. We don't say anything. It's too hard. The whistling air goes straight through me, and I wish for warmth. I wish for comfortable heat. But Cal is not here. My brother is dead, and Cal cannot find it in his stubborn heart to watch us bury him. Mom shovels the last bit of dirt, her eyes dry. She has no more tears left to give. We have that in common, at least. Shade Barrow, his headstone reads. The letters look clawed, written by some feral beast instead of my parents. It feels wrong to bury him here. He should be at home, by the river, in the woods he loved so well. Not here, on a barren island, surrounded by dunes and concrete, with nothing but empty sky to keep him company. This was not a fate he deserved. John knew this would happen. John let it happen. A darker thought takes hold. Perhaps this is another trade, another bargain. Perhaps this was the best fate he would ever face. My smartest, most caring sibling, who would always come to save me, who always knew what to say. How could this be his end? How is this fair? I know better than most that nothing in this world is fair. My vision blurs. I stare at the packed earth for who knows how long, until it's just me and Farley left in the cemetery. When I look up, she's staring at me, a storm raging between anger and sorrow. The wind ruffles her hair. It's grown longer over the past few months, nearly reaching her chin. She shoves it away so violently, I fear she might tear her scalp. I'm not going with you. She forces out the words. I can only nod. You've done enough for us, more than enough. I understand. At that she scoffs. You don't. I couldn't care less about protecting myself. Not now. Her eyes trail back to the grave. A single tear escapes, but she doesn't notice. The answer to my question, she murmurs, not thinking about me anymore. Then she shakes her head and steps closer. It wasn't much of a question anyway. I knew, deep down. I think Shay did too. He was very perceptive. Not like you. I'm sorry for everyone you've lost, I say, blunter than I wish to be. I'm sorry. She only waves a hand, dismissing the apology. She doesn't even care to ask how I know. Shade, my mother, my sister, and my father. He might be alive, but I lost him too. I remember the worry on the Colonel's face, the brief glint of concern when we returned to Tuck. He was afraid for his daughter. I wouldn't be so sure. No real father could ever be truly lost to the child he loves. The wind blows a curtain of hair across her face, almost hiding the look of shock flashing in her eyes. Shock and hope. One hand splays across her stomach, strangely gentle. The other pats my shoulder. I hope you make it out of this alive, Lightning Girl. You're not entirely awful. It might be the nicest thing she's ever said to me. Then she turns, never to look back. When I leave a few minutes later, neither do I. There's no time to mourn Shade or the others properly. For the second time in 24 hours, I must board the Black Run, forget my heart, and prepare to fight. It was Cal's idea to wait until evening, to leave the island while our hijacked broadcast crosses the nation. By the time Maven's dogs come hunting for us, we'll already be in the air and on our way to the hidden airfield outside Corvium. The Colonel will continue north, using the cover of night to cross the lakes and circle around. By morning, if the plan holds, we'll both be in charge of our own legions, one on each side of the border, and then we march. The last time I left my parents, there was no warning. Somehow that was easier than this. Saying goodbye to them is so hard I almost run to the Black Run in its familiar safety. But I force myself to hug them both, to give them whatever small comfort I can, even if it might be a lie. I'll keep them safe, I whisper, tucking my head against Mom's shoulder. Her fingers run through my hair, braiding it quickly. The gray ends have spread, almost reaching to my shoulders. Bree and Tramy. And you, she whispers back. Protect yourself too, Mare. Please. I nod against her, not wanting to move. Dad's hand finds my wrist, giving it a gentle tug. Despite his outburst earlier, he's the one to remind me I must go. His eyes linger over my shoulder at the Black Run behind us. The others have already boarded, leaving only the Barrows on the runway. I suppose they want to give me some semblance of privacy, though I have no use for such a thing. I've spent the last few months living in a hole, and before that, a palace crawling with cameras and guards. I don't care about spectators. For you, Gisa blurts, holding out her good hand. She dangles a scrap of black silk. It feels cool and slick in my hand like woven oil. From before. Red and gold flowers decorate the fabric, embroidered with the skill of a master. I remember. I murmur, running a finger over the impossible perfection. She sewed this so long ago, the night before an officer broke her hand. It is unfinished, just like her old fate, just like shade. Shaking, I tie it around my wrist. Thank you, Gisa. I reach into my pocket. And I have something for you, my girl. A trinket, cheaply made. The single earring matches the winter ocean around us. Her breath catches as she takes it. Tears quickly follow, but I can't watch them. I turn away from them all and board the black run. The ramp closes behind me, and by the time my heart stops racing, we're in the sky, soaring high above the sea. My soldiers are few compared to the many following the colonel into the lakelands. After all, I could only take people who looked young enough to play the part of the little legion, and preferably those who had served, who knew how to act like soldiers. 18 guardsmen fit the bill, and have joined us in the sky. Killorn sits with them, doing his best to acclimatize them to our close-knit group. Ada isn't with us, and neither are Darmian and Herrick. Unable to pass for teenagers, they went with the colonel. To aid our cause, however they can. Nanny is not so restricted despite her advanced age. Her appearance flickers, fluttering between different iterations of young faces. Of course, Cameron has joined us. This was truly her idea in the first place, and she all but bounces with adrenaline. She's thinking of her brother, the one she lost to the Legion. I find myself envying her. She still has a chance to save him. Cal and my brothers will be the hardest to disguise. Bree has a young face, but he's larger than any 15-year-old should be. Tramy is too tall, Cal too recognizable. But their value lies not in their appearance or even their strength, but their knowledge of the trench lines. Without them, we'll have no one to navigate such a maze and enter the nightmare wasteland of the choke. I've only seen the choke in photographs, news bulletins, and my dreams. After my ability was discovered, I thought I'd never have to go there. I thought I escaped that fate. How wrong I am. 3 hours to Corvium, Cal barks, not looking up from his instruments. The seat next to him is conspicuously empty, reserved for me. But I won't join him, not after he abandoned me to face Shade's funeral alone. Rise. Red as the dawn. The guardsmen speak in unison, banging the butts of their guns on the floor. It takes us all by surprise, though Cal does his best not to react. Still, I see distaste pull at the corner of his mouth. I'm not part of your revolution, he said once. Well, you sure look like it, Your Highness. Rise. Red as the dawn, I say. Quiet but sure. Cal scowls openly, glaring out the window. The expression makes him look like his father, and I think of who he could have been. A thoughtful warrior prince married to the viper, Evangeline. Maven said he would not have lived past the coronation night, but I don't truly believe that. Metal is forged in flame, not the other way around. He would have lived and ruled. To do what, though, I cannot say. Once I thought I knew Cal's heart, but now I realize that is impossible. No heart can ever be truly understood. Not even your own. Time passes in suffocating silence. Within the jet, we are still, but on the ground, things are in motion. My message blares on video screens all over the kingdom. I wish I were an Archeon, standing in the middle of the commercial sector, watching the world as it changes. Will the Silvers react, as I hope? Will they see Maven's betrayal for what it is? Or will they look away? Fires in Corvium. Cal leans against the cockpit glass, his mouth agape. In the city center and the Rivertown slums. He runs a hand through his hair, at a loss. Rioting. My heart leaps, then plunges. War has begun. and we have no idea what the cost may be. The rest of the jet erupts in cheers, clapping, and too many handshakes to stomach. I almost stumble out of my seat. My feet tripping over themselves. I never trip, never. But I barely make it to the back of the plane in one piece. I feel dizzy and sick, ready to lose the dinner I never ate all over the wall. One hand finds the metal, letting the coolness calm me. It works a little, but my head still spins. You wanted this. You waited for this. You made this happen. This is the bargain. This is the trade. The control I've worked so hard to maintain starts to splinter. I feel every pulse of the jet, every turn of the engines. It veins in my head, a map of white and purple too bright to stand. Mare? Killorn stands from his seat. He takes a step toward me, one hand outstretched. He looks like Shade did in his last moments. I'm fine, I lie. It's like ringing a bell. Cal turns in his seat, finding me in an instant. He crosses the jet with strong, deliberate steps, boots slamming on the metal floor. The others let him pass, too afraid to stop the Prince of Fire. I share no such fear and turn my back to him. He spins me around, not bothering to be gentle. Calm down, he snaps. He has no time for temper tantrums. I'm seized by the urge to shove him away, but I understand what he's trying to do. I nod, trying to agree, trying to do as he says. It stills him a little. Mare, calm down, he says again, this time just for me, soft as I remember. But for the pulse of the jet, we could be back at the notch, in our room, in our cot, wrapped up in our dreams. Mare. The alarm sounds seconds before the tail of the plane explodes. The force knocks me on my back so hard I see stars. I taste blood and I feel blazing heat. If not for Cal, the fire would incinerate me. Instead, it licks at his arms and back, harmless as a mother's touch. It recedes as quickly as it grows, pushed back by Cal's power, containing itself to embers. But even he can't rebuild the back of a jet, or keep us from falling out of the sky. The noise threatens to split my head, roaring like a train, screaming with the voice of 1,000 banshee shrieks. I hold on to whatever I can, metal or flesh. When my vision clears, I see black sky and bronze eyes. We hold on to each other, two children trapped in a falling star. All around us, the black run peels apart, piece by piece, each tear another blood-curdling screech. With every passing second, more of the jet disappears, until only thin bars of metal remain. It's freezing cold, hard to breathe, and impossible to move anything of my own volition. I cling to the bar beneath me, holding on with all I have left. Through slitted eyes, I watch the dark ground below, getting closer with every terrifying second. A shadow darts past. It has an electric heart and gleaming wings. Snapdragon. My stomach plummets with the remnants of the black run. I can't even summon the strength to scream. But the others certainly do. I hear them all shouting, pleading, begging for mercy from gravity's pull. The structure shudders all around, accompanied by a familiar clang. Metal, slamming together, reforming. With a gasp, I realize what's happening to us. The jet is no longer a jet. It is a cage, a steel trap. A tomb. If I could speak, I would tell Cal that I'm sorry, that I love him, that I need him. But the wind and the drop steal my breath away. I have no more words. His touch is achingly familiar, one hand at my neck, imploring me to look at him. Like me, he can't speak. But I hear his apology all the same, and he understands mine. We see nothing but each other. Not the lights of Corvium on the horizon, the ground rising up to meet us, or the fate we're about to find. There is nothing but his eyes. Even in darkness, they glow. The wind is too strong, tearing at my hair and skin. My mother's braid comes undone, the last vestige of her pulled away. I wonder who will tell her how I died, if anyone will even know the end we met. What a death for Maven to dream up. This must be his idea, to kill us together and give us time to realize what is coming. When the cage stops short, I scream. There is stiff grass beneath my dangling arms, just kissing the tips of my fingers. How? I wonder, pulling away. It's hard to find balance, and I fall. The cage rocks with my motion, like a swing hanging from a tree. "Don't move," Cal growls, putting a hand to the back of my neck. The other clutches a steel bar, and it glows red in his fist. I follow his gaze, looking across the forest clearing to the people standing in a wide circle around us. Their silver hair is hard to mistake, magnetrons of House Samos. They stretch out their arms, moving in unison, and the cage lowers slowly. It drops the last inch, earning yelps from us all. "Loose!" The voice feels like a lightning bolt. I throw off Cal's grip and vault to my feet, sprinting to the edge of the cage. Before I can hit the side, the bars drop, and my momentum carries me too far. I stumble, hitting the half-frozen grass, skidding on my knees. Someone kicks me in the face, sending me sprawling in the mud. I shoot a jagged spark in their direction, but my attacker is too fast. A tree splinters instead, toppling over with a splitting crack. The strong arm's knee hits my back, pinning me so forcefully he knocks the air from my lungs. Strange-feeling fingers coated in plastic, maybe gloves, close around my throat. I claw at his grip, sparking, but it doesn't seem to work. He lifts me without any effort at all, forcing me to scramble on my toes to keep from strangling myself. I try to scream, but it's useless. Panic knifes through me, and my eyes widen, searching for a way out of this. Instead, I see only my friends, still confined by the cage, pulling at the bars in vain. The metal shrieks again, twisting and curling, each bar becoming its own prison. Through one bruised eye, I watch metallic snakes lock around Cal, Killorn, and the others, binding their wrists and ankles and necks. Even Bree, big as a bear, has no defense against the coiling rods. Cameron fights as best she can, silencing one magnetron after another, but there are too many. When one falls, another takes their place. Only Cal can truly resist, burning through every bar that comes close. But he's just fallen out of the sky. He's disoriented at best, and bleeding from a cut above the eye. One bar cracks him across the back of the head, knocking him out cold. His eyelids flutter, and I will him to wake. Instead, the silver vines wrap around him, tightening with every passing second. The one at his throat is worst of all, digging in deep, enough to strangle. "Stop!" I choke out, turning toward the voice. Now I fight with my own meager muscles, trying to break the strong arm's grip the old-fashioned way. Nothing could be more fruitless. "Stop!" "You are in no position to bargain, Mare." Maven is coy, keeping to the darkness to his shadows. I watch his silhouette approach, noting the spiky crown on his head. When he steps into the starlight, I feel a brief twinge of satisfaction. His face does not match his confident drawl. There are bruise-like circles beneath his eyes, and a sheen of sweat coats his forehead. His mother's death has taken its toll. The hands around my throat loosen a little, allowing me to speak, but I still dangle, my toes slipping in cold grass and icy mud. No bargain, no trade. "He's your brother," I say, not bothering to think. Maven doesn't care about that at all. "And?" He raises one dark eyebrow. On the ground, Killorn squirms against his restraints. They tighten in response and he gasps, wheezing. Next to him, Cal's eyelids flutter. He's coming around, and then Maven will certainly kill him. I have no time at all. I would give anything to keep these two alive, anything. With one last explosion of rage, fear, and desperation, I let myself loose. I killed Alara Mirandus. I should be able to kill her son and his soldiers. But the strong arm is ready for me and squeezes. His gloves hold, protecting his skin from my lightning, doing exactly what they were made for. I gasp against his grip, trying to call to the sky above, but my vision spots, and a sluggish pulse sounds in my ears. He will choke me dead before the clouds can gather, and the others will die with me. I will do anything to keep him alive, to keep him with me, to not be alone. My lightning has never looked so weak or forlorn. The sparks fade slowly, like the beat of a dying heart. "I have something to trade," I whisper hoarsely. "Oh?" Maven takes another step. His presence makes my skin crawl. "Do tell." Again my collar loosens, but the strong arm digs a thumb against the vein in my throat, an open threat. "I'll fight you to the last," I say. "We all will, and we'll die doing it. We might even take you with us, just like your mother." Maven's eyelids flicker, the only indication of his pain. "You will be punished for that, mark my words." The thumb responds in kind, pressing further, probably leaving a spectacular bruise. But this is not the punishment Maven speaks of, not by a long shot. What he has in store for us will be much, much worse. The bars around Cal's wrists redden, glowing with heat. His slitted eyes reflect the starlight, watching me with bated breath. I wish I could tell him to lie still, to let me do what I have to do, to let me save him as he saved me so many times. At his side, Killorn stills. He knows me better than anyone, and understands my expression plainly. Slowly, his jaw tightens, and he shakes his head from side to side. "Let them go. Let them live," I whisper. The strong arm's hands feel like chains, and I picture them crawling over every inch, winding like iron serpents. "Mare, I don't know if you understand the definition of the word trade." Maven sneers, pressing further. "You must give me something." I won't go back to him for anyone. I told Cal that once, after I survived the sounder device and realized what this was all about. "Surrender," Maven's note said, begging me to return. "We won't fight. I won't fight." When the strong arm drops me, my walls disintegrate. I lower my head, unable to look up. It feels like bowing. This is my bargain. "Let the rest go, and I will be your prisoner. I will surrender. I will return." I focus on my hands in the grass. The coldness of the frost is familiar. It calls to my heart and the hole that grows there. Maven's hand is warm beneath my chin, burning with a sickly heat. Daring to touch me is a stark message. He does not fear the lightning girl, or at least, he wants to seem that way. He forces me to look at him, and I see nothing of the boy he once was. There is only darkness. "Mare, no! Don't be an idiot!" I barely hear Killorn, pleading now. The whining in my head is so loud, so painful. Not the hiss of electricity, but something else, inside me. My own nerves screaming in protest. But at the same time, I feel a sick and twisted relief. So many sacrifices have been made for me, for my choices. It's only fair that I take my turn and accept the punishment fate has in store. Maven reads me well, searching for a lie that doesn't exist. And I do the same. Despite his posturing, he is afraid of what I've done, of the lightning girl's words and the effect they have. He came here to kill me, to put me in the ground. Now he's found a greater prize, and I've given it to him willingly. He is a betrayer by nature, but this is a bargain he wants to uphold. I see it in his eyes. I heard it in his notes. He wants me, and will do anything to hold my leash again. Killorn squirms against his restraints, but it's no use at all. "Cal, do something!" he shouts, lashing out at the body next to him. Their bonds clang together in a hollow echo. "Don't let her!" I can't look at him. I want him to remember me differently, on my feet, in control. Not like this. "Do we have a deal?" I am reduced to a beggar, pleading with Maven to put me back in his gilded cage. "Are you a man of your word?" Above me, Maven smiles as I quote him. His teeth gleam. The others are shouting now, shaking in their bonds. I hear none of it. My mind has closed to all but the trade I am ready to make. I suppose John saw this coming. Maven's hand moves from my chin to my throat. His grip tightens, softer than the strong arm, but so much more painful. "We have a deal." Epilogue. Days pass. At least, I think they're days. I spend most of my time in dull blindness, subject to the sounder. It doesn't hurt so much anymore. My jailers have perfected the so-called dosage, using it to keep me unconscious, but not in skull-splitting pain. Every time I come out of it, my vision's spotting to show men in white robes. They turn the dial and the device clicks again. The insect burrows in my brain, clicking, always clicking. Sometimes I feel pulled, but never enough to fully wake. Sometimes I hear Maven's voice. Then the white prison turns black and red, both colors too strong to stand. This time when I come around, nothing clicks. The world is too bright and slightly blurry, but I don't fall back under. I truly wake up. My chains are clear, probably plastic or even diamond glass. They bind my wrists and ankles too tight for comfort, but loose enough to allow circulation. The manacles are the worst part, sharp and grating against the sensitive flesh. Worn wounds, shallow from stinging, ooze blood. The red seems to bite in contrast to my pale shift dress, and no one bothers to wipe it away. Now that Maven can't hide what I am, he must show it for all the world, for whatever twisting scheme he has now. The chains clink and I realize I'm in an armored transport, a moving one. This must be used for prisoners because there are no windows and the walls have rings. My chains are hooked to one, swaying slightly. Across from me are the two men in white, both bald as eggs. They bear a striking resemblance to Instructor Arvin. His brothers or cousins, most likely. That explains the stifling sensation and my difficulty breathing. These men are silencing my ability, holding me hostage in my own skin. Strange that they need chains, too. Without my lightning, I'm just a 17-year-old girl, almost 18 now. I can't help but smile. I'll spend my birthday a prisoner of my own volition. This time last year, I thought I'd be marching to the war front. Now I'm heading who knows where, locked into a rolling transport with two men who would very much like to kill me. Not much of an upgrade. And I guess Maven was right. He warned me we would spend my next birthday together. It seems he is a man of his word. What day is it? I ask, but neither responds. They don't even blink. Their focus on me, on silencing what I am, is perfect and unbreakable. Outside, a strange, dull roar begins to grow. I can't place it, and don't want to waste energy trying. I'm sure I'll find out soon enough. I'm not wrong. After a few more minutes, the transport eases to a stop, and the rear door is wrenched open. The roar is a crowd, an eager one. For a terrifying second, I wonder if I'm being sent back to the Bowl of Bones, to the arena where Maven tried to have me killed. He must want to finish the job. Someone unlatches my chains, yanking, pulling me forward. I almost fall out of the transport, but one of the Arvin silencers catches me at the last moment. Not out of kindness, but necessity. I must look dangerous, like the lightning girl of old. No one cares about a weak prisoner. No one jeers at a sniveling coward. They want to see a conqueror brought lower, a living trophy. For that is what I am now. I willingly stepped into this cage. I always do. My body quivers when I realize where I am. The Bridge of Archeon. Once I watched it crumble and burn, but the symbol of power and strength is rebuilt. And I must walk across it, my feet cut and bare, my chains and captors close at hand. I stare at the ground, unable to look up. I don't want to see the faces of so many people, so many cameras. I can't let them see me break. That is what Maven wants, and I will never give it to him. I thought it would be easy to be put on parade. After all, I'm used to it by now. But this is so much worse than before. The tremors of relief I felt in the forest clearing are gone now, giving way to dread. Every eye crawls over me, looking for the cracks in my famous face. They find many. I try not to listen to their shouting, and for a few seconds I succeed. Then I realize what most of them are saying, and the horrible things they hold up for me to see. Names, photographs, all the Silvers dead or missing. I had a hand in all their fates. They scream at me, throwing words more harmful than any object. By the time I reach the far end of the bridge and the crowded Caesar Square, the tears come too fast and hard to stop. Everyone sees. With every step my body tightens. I reach for what I cannot have, for the ability that cannot save me. I can barely breathe, as if the noose is already tight around my neck. What have I done? There are many gathered on the steps of Whitefire Palace, eager to see my downfall. The nobles and generals are all in mourning black, this time for the Queen. Evangeline's own gown is hard to ignore, midnight spikes of crystal, glinting as she moves. One person alone wears gray, the only color that suits him. John. Somehow he stands with the rest of them and watches my approach. His eyes, blood red, hold an apology I will never accept. I should have never let him go. I cursed to myself. Once he said I would rise alone. Now I know he was lying, for I have certainly fallen. The front of the platform is empty, raised above all else, a good place for an execution if Maven is so inclined. He sits there waiting, seated on a throne I don't recognize. My jailers pull me toward him, forcing me to approach the king. I wonder if he'll murder me in front of everyone and paint the steps of his palace with my blood. I flinch as he stands. We face each other as betrothed people would, stark and alone before a crowd of faces. But this is not a wedding. This might be my funeral. My ending. Something glints in his grip. His father's sword and executioner's blade. I feel shivering cold as he clamps the something around my neck. A collar. Jeweled, gilded, sharp-edged, a beautiful thing of horrors. My blurred tears make it hard to see, until I'm sure of nothing but the black-armored king before me, and the brand scalding my collarbone. There's a chain attached to the collar. A leash. I am nothing more than a dog. He holds it tightly in his fist, and I expect him to drag me from the platform. Instead, he stands firm. He tugs smartly, testing the chain in hand, making me stumble toward him. The points of the collar dig in. I almost choke. You put her body on display. His lips brush my ear as he forces the words through clenched teeth. Pain hums in his voice. I'll do the same to you. His expression is unreadable, but his meaning is clear. With one hand, he points at his feet. His fingers are whiter than I remember. I do as he says. I kneel. This is Amanda Dolan. We hope you have enjoyed this unabridged production of Glass Sword by Victoria Aveyard. This program was produced by Elgin Productions, executive producer Caitlin Gehring, text copyright 2016 by Victoria Aveyard, production copyright 2016 by HarperCollins Publishers, all rights reserved. Thank you for listening.